Naruto. I get a pair of hands of gods and ghosts at the beginning. Chapter 21. Konoha Ninja, go to hell. Yi Kang shouted loudly, sweat dripping down his cheeks in an instant. It was obvious that the ninjutsu he was about to perform next was extremely burdensome. Scorching escaped steam killing spiral. As her voice fell, all 4 fireballs rose to the top of her head and started spinning rapidly. In an instant, a surging heat wave swept across, spiraling around. The 4 fireballs gradually merged into one while rotating rapidly, erupting with even more fiery power. Kid, pay the price for my frivolous mother. Yi Kang roared angrily, and the power of the huge fireball reached its peak at this moment, sending out a scorching spiral heat wave. With her as the center, everything in the courtyard evaporated in an instant, even the earth sank and turned into sand. The heat wave swept out and rushed towards Yi Feng, vowing to suck him into dust. But Yi Feng was not nervous at all. He silently made a posture and held the short knife with both hands. He was calm, and his slightly closed eyes suddenly opened a second before the heat wave hit. When the blood eyes flickered, the dark flames wrapped around the dagger suddenly rose violently, like a strong wind whistling. Uchiha-style wind slash. This is the only sword skill that Yi Feng has mastered. With the blessing of the power of ghosts and gods, it can be called his strongest attack method at present. The wind howled incessantly, Yi Feng slashed the blade violently, and the chakra in his body was consumed crazily. In an instant, a crescent-shaped wind blade flew out, carrying a violent wind and struck Yi Kang. And the weirdest thing is that the crescent wind blade is actually a dark black color. The wind and waves carried by it were also burning with dark energy, revealing an extreme coldness. For a moment, the scorching air waves that rushed towards Yi Feng seemed to be defeated, and were driven back by the strange violent wind. Yi Kang looked on with horror. She thought that this move she used was enough to kill the opponent. Who knew he was so powerful and his abilities were so weird? But she would never give up easily and hand over her life like this. Drink, she shouted angrily and poured her remaining chakra into the huge fireball above her head. In an instant, the power of the burning escape fireball increased again, and even vaguely revealed the ultimate white light. Yi Kang didn't hesitate and threw the huge spinning fireball fiercely. The scorching air wave moved forward rapidly, and in the blink of an eye it collided with the violent wind slash that was slashing in midair. Boom! A huge explosion sounded in the center, and endless thick smoke enveloped the surroundings. Yi Kang fell to the ground in a state of exhaustion. Just when he was about to escape while the thick smoke was spreading, a young figure appeared in front of him. Yi Feng looked at Yi Kang condescendingly, with a somewhat indifferent expression on his face. Frivolous. Are you referring to that palm? If you were a little plumper, maybe I would consider squeezing a little harder. But this is the real frivolity. Yi Feng raised his ghost hand, placed it on Yi Kang's chin, and slowly raised it with force. The next moment, he suddenly moved closer to Yi Kang, and the distance between his faces was extremely small. Yi Kang was startled and stretched out her hand to stop Yi Feng, but after the chakra was exhausted, her body lost strength and her hand fell down as soon as it was raised in the air. Moreover, the hand that touched her was a ghost's hand, and an unbearable coldness spread throughout her body, as if she had fallen into a freezing sea of ice. By the way, it seems like we should take off our clothes. Yi Feng showed a harmless smile and stretched out his palm. Yi Kang's eyes widened in fear, but she was even less able to resist after being eroded by the power of gods and ghosts. The next moment, she felt a young palm fall on her body, and despair suddenly aroused in her eyes. But just when she was about to lose her desire to survive, a strong wind suddenly hit her. Yi Feng was very surprised by this sudden attack. Before he could block it, he was kicked hard and flew away. Go quickly. Luo Sha's voice rang in Yi Kang's ears, and the next moment, the other party supported her and quickly climbed over the wall and left Roaing Pavilion. Yi Feng struggled to get up from the ground and withdrew the power of the ghost hand without hesitation. He already knew who that person was just now. Suddenly, another person appeared in the courtyard, looked at Yi Feng and said, "How are you? Is something wrong?" "It's okay, I just gave him a kick." Yi Feng spread his hands and slowly patted the dust off his body. "It looks like he escaped," Fugaku said in a deep voice. Suddenly he thought of something and ran back quickly. The corner of Yi Feng's mouth twitched. Needless to say, he knew that Fugaku was busy chasing Luasha and must not have paid attention to Kakashi. He should be almost unable to hold on anymore, right? Yi Feng didn't think too much and hurriedly chased after him. The two of them quickly approached the backyard, but suddenly they heard a strange sound. Hiss. The neighing sound was like the low chirping of 1,000 birds, hoarse and sharp at the same time. And Yi Feng immediately thought of Kakashi's signature ninjutsu, Chidori. Immediately afterwards, a burst of blue light suddenly came from the backyard, but it passed quickly, as if it had never appeared. The two of them moved forward quickly and suddenly jumped into the backyard in a few breaths. With a tired look on his face, Kakashi pulled his right hand out of a sand ninja's body and cast a look at them. Yi Feng noticed that Kakashi's blade had been shattered and his body was full of scars, and the bodies of 3 sand ninjas were lying around at this moment. There is no doubt that he won this battle very hard. But this is normal. Kakashi is still some distance away from being a chunin, and his opponents are 3 experienced genin. Even if they have no chance of winning one-on-one, if they cooperate, it will not be as simple as 1 + 1. Yi Feng hurriedly ran over, supported Kakashi who was losing strength, and said with some admiration, "Well done, have a good rest." His admiration was sincere, even though he also achieved victory, and it was a big victory. But what he relies on is the hands of gods and ghosts that can change fate against the will of heaven. The cooperation of Yi Kang and others cannot be used at all in the face of the strength of his elite chunin. As for Yi Kang's powerful burning escape, his ghost hands couldn't help it, and he was suppressed everywhere. Kakashi, on the other hand, relied on his own efforts and talent to successfully win this victory. Comparing the two, Yi Feng would naturally be a little impressed, but he would not be stupid enough to abandon plugins and rely solely on himself to improve his strength. The hand of the gods and ghosts is a part of him after all. Although the way to obtain strength seems to be a shortcut, it is actually real power after all. While I admire you, it doesn't affect me from continuing to cheat. Fugaku stepped forward and found that Kakashi had passed out. He immediately said, "Evacuate Windfire City first and find a place to treat Kakashi. The task may not be completed." Yi Feng nodded. This stronghold had obviously been destroyed by Sunagaku, and the information needed for their mission was naturally destroyed. I really didn't expect that my first mission turned out to be a failure. Yi Feng smiled bitterly, put Kakashi on Fugaku's back, and ran outside with him. But as soon as the two took a few steps, a figure stopped them. "Hello, you 3. Oh, one of you fainted." The girl greeted softly, her golden hair looking very gorgeous in the sun. Yi Feng's eyes widened slightly, and he recognized this girl. Astonishingly, it was the manto that blocked him and Kakashi at the door. Fugaku activated the Sharingan immediately and said in a cold voice, "Who are you?" "You don't need to know who I am, you just need to know that I am a ninja at the root of Konoha," the girl said. At the same time, he is also the only survivor of this stronghold. Roots, the only survivor. Fugaku frowned. As a Junin of the village, he had naturally heard of this organization, but his suspicions still did not decrease. The girl was not surprised by this. A ninja who surrenders his trust easily will not survive long. "I don't need your trust. I came out to see you just because I thought you needed this." The girl took out a scroll from her arms and threw it at Fugaku's feet. Then, she turned around silently and walked towards the outside world. Yi Feng silently looked at the girl's dainty and gentle appearance, which gradually overlapped with a figure in his heart. Suddenly, a very terrible result flashed through his mind. He hurriedly shouted, "Wait a minute, I want to talk to you alone." Fugaku looked at Yi Feng in surprise and said in a deep voice, "Don't be ridiculous." Yi Feng shook his head, indicating that he was not fooling around. The girl turned around, looked at him in surprise, and said with a sweet smile, "Little brother, you want to talk to me alone, is it because you want to breastfeed? Put away your disguise, I'm sure it was you who saved me." XXXXX. Yi Feng suddenly stopped making any sound midway through his words, only making mouth movements. At this moment, Fugaku had already turned around, still staring at the other party warily. But the girl saw it completely, especially the last mouth shape Yi Feng made, which was clearly a name. A name that she was so familiar with that she would never forget it. Little devil, how did you know?" The girl's smile disappeared in an instant, and her face became solemn and gloomy. Fugaku quickly took precautions and even had the idea of striking first. "Sure enough, it's you. If you guess wrong, you'll be in trouble next time." Yi Feng breathed a sigh of relief, put down the last worry in his heart, walked to Fugaku's side and whispered, "Brother Fugaku, she just saved my life, I want to talk to her alone." Fugaku's eyes widened suddenly, completely unable to understand Yi Feng's actions. Even if the other party saved his life, a word of thanks would be enough. Why would he need to talk alone? But before he opened his mouth, Yi Feng continued, "Brother Fuyu, it's okay." Fugaku's eyes twitched slightly. At this moment, Yi Feng exuded a maturity that was inconsistent with his appearance, making him nod involuntarily. The next moment, Yi Feng slowly walked out and came to the girl. The girl looked at him with a gloomy face and said coldly, "You know my identity, aren't you afraid that I will kill you?" "You don't dare," Yi Feng said calmly, with a hint of threat in his words. The girl glanced at Uchiha Fugaku behind Yi Feng, and remembered the whisper between the two just now. Perhaps her identity has been revealed by this brat. What on earth do you want to do? The girl gritted her teeth, secretly hating why she had to come out, why she had to be kind and help them complete their mission. "Let's go and talk alone," Yi Feng said, taking the lead to walk outside. The girl glanced at Fugaku, who was standing there, and followed him with a gloomy face. The two of them walked forward in silence until they entered the beautiful ruined courtyard. "Yakushi Nanoyu, have you seen all my battles?" Yi Feng asked coldly. The reason why he wanted to talk to the other party was all because of this. Although Yi Kang, who had seen the power of ghosts and gods, successfully escaped, he failed to silence him. However, due to the hostile relationship between Sunagakur village and Konoha village, coupled with the ambiguity and speed of transmission of information, by the time Konoha gets this information from Sunagakur, it will have to be a year or two later. Moreover, the information obtained will be very vague. At most, it is that he encountered an Uchiha boy with strange abilities in an ambush. Although Konoha can find out his identity through mission records, the description of his abilities in the intelligence will definitely not be detailed. At that time, all he had to do was fool around casually. With the third generation's temperament and the power of the Uchiha family, the village would definitely not investigate strictly. But this one in front of me is different. Yakushi no is the top intelligence officer in the roots. If she goes back, she will tell Danzo what she saw. Yi Feng was sure that the first second he returned to the village, he would be taken away by the ninjas of the root organization. The consequences will definitely be very tragic. Even if the Uchiha clan strongly opposes it, when the indecisive Sandaime orders Danzo to release him, he may have little chance of survival. If Danzo was trying to recruit him, he actually wouldn't object to joining the root organization. But it is not a wise move to attract the attention of careerist Danzo so early. His strength is not enough to protect himself in front of these shadow-level powerhouses. "I saw your battle." Medicine Master Nanoyu suddenly understood and knew the reason why Yi Feng wanted to talk alone. Thinking of this, Nanoyu chuckled, turned over and jumped onto the eaves. "So that's it, so what if I see it? That Uchiha Junin didn't come with me. How can you still stop me from leaving and tell me? No matter how weird your abilities are, you still don't have the strength of a Jonin." Yi Feng looked up at her and said calmly, "I really don't have your strength, but we can cooperate." "Cooperation? What can we do to cooperate?" Nanoyu looked down at him condescendingly. From Yi Feng's perspective, he could just see two round arcs blocking Nanoyu's neck. But Yi Feng didn't look much and said, "Do you want to leave the root?" Nanoyu's eyes flashed quietly, and her heart trembled, but she didn't show it on her face, pretending to be calm and said, "Why should I leave the root?" "Why, don't you know it yourself?" Yi Fengyan said lightly. Nanoyu frowned secretly. Where did this kid know the information about himself? He even knew that he wanted to leave general. Seeing that Yi Feng was confident and not anxious at all, Nanoyu's rich experience told him that she had lost the initiative. "Okay, I admit, I do want to leave the root organization." She spread her hands helplessly, but quickly changed the subject and tried to regain the initiative. "But what does this have to do with you?" "I can help you get rid of the root tissue," Yi Feng said calmly, as if he felt that the chips were not enough, and continued to add. "If you want to care for orphans, I can help you build an orphanage and bear all the expenses." In the original work, the pharmacist Nanoyu established an orphanage after leaving his roots. If it hadn't been for financial problems, Danzo wouldn't have been forced to become a walking Miko again and eventually die miserably. Now that they have met and the two sides have this strange intersection, Yi Feng doesn't mind helping. After all, she could have not shown up, left quietly after the battle, returned to Konoha and told Danzo everything. But out of the kindness of her heart, she decided to help them complete their mission. If such a good person doesn't help, Yi Feng's conscience won't allow it. Pharmacist Nanoyu was even more shocked. In her original plan, she did have the idea of building an orphanage after leaving her roots. During her several years of spy career, she had seen too many homeless and orphaned children, and she felt heartbroken every time. If possible, she would like to build an orphanage so that all orphans can have a warm home. But Nanoyu obviously didn't believe Yi Feng's words, and couldn't help but question, "You are just a little kid, what ability can you help me?" "Just because of my identity," Yi Feng said confidently, and suddenly the 3 Magatama Sharingan burst out in his eyes. Three Magatama. Nanoyu was so shocked that he couldn't speak, his face full of horror. But she quickly reacted and said in disbelief, "If I remember correctly, your Sharingan is still a single Magatama during battle. Did he evolve in the last blow against Yi Kang?" Yi Feng looked at her calmly and had no intention of explaining, "I am only 5 years old and have the 3 Magatama Sharingan. What do you think my status will be in the Uchiha clan?" "The status? I'm afraid he is the unofficial leader of the clan who has not yet grown up. After all, this talent is really terrifying," Nanoyu said in horror. "Then I'll make a request to the clan and use the power of the Uchiha clan to put pressure on Danzo and help you break away from your roots. Isn't this too much? As for the reason, you saved me in this battle, and I promise to fulfill your wish, which is to break away from your roots and gain freedom. After that, I will make another request. I want to help you build an orphanage and bear all the expenses. For the Uchiha clan, this is probably even simpler than the previous request." Yi Feng said calmly, as if he was an experienced politician, confident enough to play a big game. Nanoyu was shocked by this series of words. The more he thought about it, the more feasible it became. But the most important quality that makes her the best spy under Danzo is that she doesn't trust anyone. Faced with this temptation, she still did not let down her guard and believed Yi Feng in the slightest. She said hesitantly, "I really can't believe that you really want to help me." There was a coldness in Yi Feng's eyes, and he said indifferently, "I said it from the beginning, this is a cooperation. You help me hide everything, and I will help you get rid of the root organization. As for helping you build an orphanage, I'm just providing it for free out of my goodwill towards you. After all, in this world of cannibalism, there are not many kind-hearted ninjas like you." Nanoyu instinctively realized that there was a huge secret hidden in Yi Feng in front of him, especially his strange ability. "If it weren't for the fear of exposure, I probably wouldn't care about myself at all." Thinking of this, Nanoyu decided to take a gamble. After all, relying on herself alone, she had no confidence that she could escape from her roots. There is a great opportunity in front of you, there is really no reason to give up. The outcome of failure is nothing more than death. In this miserable world, there is nothing worthy of her nostalgia. Thinking of this, Nanoyu smiled with relief, jumped down from the eaves and stood in front of Yi Feng. She smiled softly and bowed. "I agree." Then, she blinked and said with a smile on her face, "Are you really only 5 years old? You feel terribly mature." Yi Feng looked at the steamed bun that appeared in front of him again and smiled innocently. "What? Is it possible that you still want to pledge yourself to me? Is that okay, sister? I'm very gentle." Nanoyu smiled sweetly, showing off her graceful figure. Yi Feng put away his smile and walked to the backyard indifferently. "But what I have to say is that Nanoyu is indeed very charming. She is obviously only a teenage girl, but she is full of charming temperament. Is she worthy of being a walking witch?" Even though he knew that she was gentle and quiet in nature, Yi Feng couldn't help but wonder which one was the real her. Her charming temperament has no element of acting, as if it is natural, and her every move is extremely alluring. "Little brother, are you ignoring me now?" No Nanoyu smiled sweetly and slowly followed Yi Feng. But he suddenly turned around and said, "I have no interest in exposing your disguise, but you must remember it from this moment on. You saved me during my battle with Yi Kang." Nanoyu trembled all over, his smile froze on his face, and his heart was greatly shocked. She had been a spy for several years, and her disguise was seen through only a handful of times, but every time she was in danger, she almost lost her life. She was even sure that even Danzo might not know her true temperament. After all, even she herself has almost forgotten how to be herself. You, why do you know me so well? Nanoyu asked with a trembling voice, feeling inexplicably terrified. Yi Feng looked at her and showed a bright smile. This is a secret, but don't worry, as long as you control your mouth, I won't harm you. As for whether you believe it or not, it's up to you to decide. Seeing Yi Feng suddenly showing a helpless expression full of childishness, Nanoyu felt a lot of peace in his heart for some unknown reason, and even the previous fear dissipated. What a special kid. Maybe he is really worthy of trust. After that, Yi Feng walked slowly into the backyard, while Nanayu followed silently. Fugaku, who had simply treated Kakashi's wound, heard the movement and cast his eyes immediately. When he saw Yi Feng return unscathed, his tense heart suddenly relaxed. Brother Fugaku, have you checked the information on the scroll? Upon hearing the inquiry, Fugaku turned his attention to the pharmacist Nono, and his alertness was obviously lowered. No problem. That's good, Yi Feng said. Nanoyu watched this scene quietly, a little annoyed by Yi Feng's distrust, but it had to be said that Yi Feng's performance made her more optimistic about cooperation. She slowly smiled and looked at the unconscious Kakashi. Let me treat him. Uchiha Fugaku immediately wanted to object. After all, he still didn't know the details of Yakushi no. Although she produced the information needed for their mission, it was very likely that it was a trap. Brother Fugaku, let her treat Kakashi. It will be fine. Yi Feng said that he believed that Nanoyu, who had light in his heart, would never take action against Kakashi. What's more, they have already reached a cooperation. Strictly speaking, they are already their own. Fugaku looked at Yi Feng, who had a serious look on his face, and discovered for the first time that this child had an unknown mature side. And he was not a fool. He almost didn't believe what Yi Feng said about Nanoyu saving him. If this is true, then why avoid yourself? The two of them had obviously reached some kind of consensus through their conversation just now, otherwise the girl would not have followed back, as if she were following the team. However, Fugaku is still willing to believe in Yi Feng, and Nanoyu's performance can also gain a certain amount of trust. Thinking of this, he nodded doubtfully and acquiesced to Nanoyu's actions. After all, he had watched Yi Feng grow up, and the trust between them would not fall apart instantly. Yi Feng naturally felt Fugaku's doubts. After all, when he stood up to retain the pharmacist Nanoyu, he was destined to expose something. But he didn't know how to explain it to Fugaku yet, so he could only take one step at a time. Sighing helplessly in his heart, Yi Feng said to Nanayu, "Thank you for your hard work. It's a small matter." Nanoyu smiled softly and walked to Kakashi's side. She squatted down silently, her hands glowing with emerald green light, and she placed them on the other person's wound. Immediately afterwards, the wound began to heal visibly to the naked eye, and no more blood oozed out. Seeing this, Fugaku couldn't help but praise him from the bottom of his heart. He never expected that Nanoyu would be such an outstanding medical ninja. After a while, Kakashi was still in a coma. Nanoyu stopped the treatment and stood up. "That's it for now, let's get out of here first. I will help him treat the rest of his injuries on the way." "Well, I was just about to remind you." Fugaku nodded slightly. Although he realized that Nanoyu was talking to Yi Feng, he still stood up and took charge of everything. "Let's go, leave Windfire City first," he said silently, put Kakashi on his back, and ran out first. Yi Feng nodded towards Nanayu, and the two immediately caught up and left Roaing Pavilion. Late at night, Yi Feng and 4 other people set up a bonfire and sat around it. As for Kakashi's injury, it was healed by Nono on the road without leaving any sequelae. The 4 of them looked at the fire in silence, and no one spoke. Kakashi, who had just woken up, was a little confused and had no idea who the suddenly extra girl was. However, he, who had always been silent, saw that teacher Fugaku and Yi Feng completely accepted each other, so he stopped asking. As for Fugaku, who was full of doubts, although he wanted to find Yi Feng to ask questions alone, he was worried about leaving Kakashi alone with Nanoyu. After all, except for the Uchiha clan members, it was really hard for him to trust anyone else. Yi Feng looked at Fugaku's uncertain face and said silently, "Brother Fugaku, I will tell you everything when I return to the village." Fugaku cast a pleased look at him, and suddenly he felt a little relieved. "Yes." Nanoyu glanced at Yi Feng quietly. Although she didn't know him well yet, she was deeply suspicious of everything he said. There was no talking all night, and after everyone had a rest, they quickly started on their way. This time, because the task had been completed and everyone was eager to rush back to the village, the number of breaks was reduced. It took them 5 days to arrive, but after 3 days, they had already seen the outline of the village. Yi Feng wiped the sweat from his forehead. The long journey was too much for his child's body. Kakashi was even worse than him. His steps were quite weak, and he had already fallen to the end of the team. Fugaku noticed this, looked at the outline of the village in the distance, and ordered, "Rest here for a while and return to the village refreshed." Yi Feng and Kakashi were so relieved that they both stopped and lay on the ground. Fugaku sat down in silence. In his opinion, it was actually best to return to the village as soon as possible. After all, he was full of questions and was still waiting for Yi Feng's explanation. But looking at everyone's tired looks, he finally couldn't give up. Nanoyu came to Yi Feng's side, smiled and teased, "Little brother, you don't have enough physical strength. Have you tried it?" Yi Feng choked back without showing any signs of weakness. "Sister, even if I want to try, can you do it?" Nanayu whispered softly, leaving Yi Feng speechless for a moment. He is only 5.5 years old now. Even if he has the soul of an adult, his body is still developing after all. There are some abilities that he is really not good at. Yi Feng turned his head helplessly, not wanting to tangle with Nanayu anymore. Nanoyu smiled softly, but said nothing more. He looked at the village from a distance and gradually became silent. Kakashi on the side looked at them secretly. He had seen them bickering many times along the way. Inexplicably, I always feel a little inappropriate. But he is a straight man who doesn't understand this. Before he came into contact with the paradise of intimacy, he was not interested at all. After a while, Fugaku stood up and said, "Let's go." All 4 of them had recovered their physical strength, and the next moment they jumped up high and ran towards Konoha village in the distance. Not long after setting off, Yi Feng approached Nanoyu and said, "You will go to the Uchiha clan with me later, and don't return to the roots." "Why, you don't believe me?" Nanoyu frowned slightly in surprise. "Of course I believe you, but Danzo is definitely not that easy to deal with. If you ask him to leave the roots after you go back, he will never agree. Even if we, the Uchiha clan, put pressure on Danzo, you will be brutally tortured and even endanger your life." Yi Feng said with a stern face. He really didn't like Danzo, a great conspirator with no limits. "If you follow me back to the Uchiha clan, you will be protected by our clan. All subsequent negotiations will be conducted by our clan, and there is no need for you to stand up. In this way, unless the Uchiha clan fails in the end, you will be the safest." Nanoyu looked at Yi Feng in disbelief. He didn't expect that besides knowing him well, he also knew Danzo very well. If he really returns to his roots and expresses his intention to break away from Danzo, he will probably be severely punished. But if he really goes to the Uchiha clan, the favor he owes will be even greater. Nanayu felt moved in her heart, but her conscience made her understand that Yi Feng would have to pay too much if she did this. She really has a troubled conscience. It's better not to use it anymore. From the day I wanted to get rid of my roots, I was ready to pay the price. You just need to do your best to help me according to the previous agreement. Having said this, Nanoyu forced a smile while pretending to be calm. It's so long-winded. If you are killed by Danzo, who will give you your life? You must follow me, Yi Feng said in a deep voice, with a domineering tone in his words that people could not resist. Although he said this, Yi Feng was actually very worried that after the pharmacist Nanoyu returned, he would be tortured to extract a confession because he wanted to get rid of his roots. He even had his memories reviewed by specialized interrogation ninjas. In that case, everything he has planned these days will be in vain. But Nanoyu didn't know what he was thinking, and his overbearing words made her lose her mind. In her heart, she always regarded Yi Feng as a child, even though he was full of secrets and acted very mature. But at this moment, her heart was suddenly touched, and she felt that the young man in front of her had completely shed his immaturity and became extremely mature. And this maturity seems to be a little deeper than hers. Inexplicably, Nanayu recalled Yi Feng's teasing words, and his face showed a real blush that was no longer disguised. "Are you willing to commit yourself to me?" What a nonsense. Nanoyu's heart was beating wildly, and for the first time she realized that she could no longer control her emotions. Even with her extremely skilled skills, she couldn't calm herself down, and the blush on her face couldn't be wiped off. "Hey, do you understand? Yi Feng spoke again, his voice remaining as domineering as before. Yeah, No Naiyu lowered his head and responded, slightly behind Yi Feng, not wanting him to notice that something was wrong with him. However, Yi Feng didn't pay attention, and after receiving the response, he distanced himself from the two parties. Nanoyu looked at Yi Feng, who was farther away, felt a sense of melancholy in his heart, and began to think wildly. As for Yi Feng, he was thinking about another thing at the moment. That is, how to explain all this to Fugaku, especially his desire to help Nanoyu escape from his roots. The most terrible thing is that Fugaku may have realized that Nono saved him was a lie through the problems exposed during the first meeting. Fortunately, Yi Feng's performance was quite witty at the time, and Nanoyu's response did not reveal too many problems. Judging from the lies he had carefully concocted in the past 3 days, it was enough to get through and fool Fugaku. Regarding his relationship with Fugaku, he really didn't want to give up. Although both parties wanted to take advantage of each other, every detail of their relationship was real. What's more, Fugaku plays a vital role in Yi Feng's next plan. The relationship between the two must be maintained well. Although there may be some damage caused by this time, as long as the interests are consistent, there will be no problems in the future relationship. Yi Feng thought thoughtfully, his eyes gradually becoming empty. The four of them walked slowly into the village gate. After some verification, they entered the village. Fugaku was the first to say, "That root ninja, why don't you leave?" Nanoyu had regained his composure at this moment, and smiled softly in the face of Fugaku's inquiry. "My little brother invited me to his house as a guest, so I won't go back yet." Fugaku turned his gaze to Yi Feng, feeling increasingly unable to see through him. Yi Feng put away his immaturity and said calmly, "Brother Fugue, please submit the task first." In the original work, this kind of mission out of the village seems to require an interview with the Hokage. But as far as Yi Feng knew, it was just a task issued by the Hokage himself and required an interview. What Fugaku took was just an ordinary sea-level mission. If he hadn't encountered an ambush, it wouldn't have been worth mentioning. In this case, there is naturally no need to meet the Hokage. Fugaku's eyes flashed with a faint light, and he said silently, "Then I will go alone, and you all go back and rest." After saying that, Fugaku left immediately, eager to deal with everything and come back as soon as possible to solve the doubts in his heart. Kakashi looked on confusedly, always feeling like he missed something in that battle with Sunagaku. However, he didn't think much about it and walked out with a cold face. He just wanted to go back and seize the time to practice. Through the battle with Sand Ninja, he clearly saw the gap between himself and Yi Feng. He was able to kill 3 Sunagaku genin without a single scratch, while also facing the terrifying burnt release ninja. However, he only faced off against 3 Sunagaku genin. Although he narrowly succeeded in defeating one of them, he was injured and fell into coma. Compared with what he thought, it was really too weak. Yi Feng had no time to care about him now, so he took Nanoyu directly to the Uchiha clan, making a plan in his heart for everything that would happen next. Under the sun, No Naiyu and Yi Feng walked together, the figures of one tall and one short gradually lengthened and intertwined. Feeling everything peaceful and quiet, Nanoyu showed a soft smile and reached out to touch the sunshine. In her past life, she was always on tenterhooks every day, worrying whether she would be exposed and whether there would be traps waiting for her. It's completely different from this moment, where I can feel the beauty of life in a peaceful state of mind. And all this is because of the young man beside him. After thinking about it, No Naiyu cast a curious look at Yi Feng. It was really hard for her to believe that a 5 or 6-year-old child could have such a mature state of mind and be more mature than some adults. "Why do you keep looking at me? Do you really want to commit yourself to me?" Yi Feng teased. Nanoyu suddenly blushed with embarrassment, but refused to admit his inner thoughts and retorted softly, "Humph, how is that possible? Then why are you shy? This is my unique skill. Use it if you want. Do you care about me?" Yi Feng smiled at this and said nothing. Neither of them noticed that in the past, when Nanoyu faced teasing, he would flatter him without any care and continue to show off his charm. But at this moment, she subconsciously chose to refute, and the meaning was self-evident. "Brat, except that he looks different, he looks exactly like those stinky men who spend their days and nights living in a drunken life." Nanoyu gritted his teeth secretly, always feeling that something was wrong with him, but he couldn't explain why for the moment. After a while, Yi Feng took her into the Uchiha clan and came to his home. Why is your house so shabby? I'm beginning to doubt your status in the Uchiha community, Nanoyu said mercilessly as he looked at the old house. Yi Feng smiled and sat in the living room minding his own business. Who told me that my talent was not good before and I only had a single Magatama Sharingan? Nanoyu sat opposite him and didn't believe this at all. You don't want to expose that weird ability, right? If it is revealed, the effect should not be worse than the Sharingan. Yi Feng's words became colder in an instant. Remember, my ability must not be revealed. Otherwise, you will be miserable. Being suddenly threatened by Yi Feng, even though Nanoyu thought it was reasonable, he felt a sense of grievance in his heart and said in annoyance, I know. Yi Feng didn't care about this. After all, anyone who was threatened would probably not smile. He continued, while Fugaku hasn't come back yet, let's discuss how you saved me. At that time, Zhou Dun Yikang was about to defeat me, but you suddenly appeared to lend a helping hand and saved me. Then I took the opportunity to defeat Yikang, and when I was about to take her life, Luo Sha appeared and rescued her. You only appeared once when you rescued me, and then you hid again. Is there a problem? No. Nanoyu suppressed the anger in his heart, thought about it and shook his head. After all, they were the only two people present on Konoha's side at that time. As long as there were no huge loopholes, the right to interpret would always belong to them. She suddenly thought of something and said, but your ability has finally been exposed. You can keep me from telling anyone. But you should be out of control of Sunagaku's Yikang. Are you worried about me? Yi Feng seemed to be used to getting along with her, and would always tease her subconsciously. But before Nanoyu could react, he smiled confidently and said nonchalantly, you are engaged in intelligence, so you should know very well that it will take a long time for Konoha to know about this matter. Especially since I haven't attracted anyone's attention now, the senior management will never spend a lot of effort to obtain this information. Nanoyu was noncommittal about this, nodded and said, it does take a long time, and there is also a certain amount of luck. After all, every spy is trained with huge resources, and stealing information will only focus on the core secrets of the ninja village. Although your ability should attract Sunagaku's attention, this is just an ordinary task after all, and an unsuspecting spy will never read the files for nothing. When this information reaches the village, it will be at least a year later, or it may never come back. No. Nanoyu looked at Yi Feng suspiciously, his eyes flashing. Looking at your confidence, it seems that you are not afraid of the information coming back. Are you ready? How is that possible? Yi Feng chuckled and waved his hand. But Nanoyu obviously didn't believe it. In her heart, Yi Feng was just a cunning old fox, and his innocent appearance could no longer deceive her. However, she also gave up questioning. The two of them just had a cooperative relationship now, and it would be better to follow some rules. Suddenly, she seemed to notice something and stretched out her hand to make a silent gesture. The next moment, she gave a sweet smile and said charmingly, little brother, we are all alone, do you want to play games together? Yi Feng reacted immediately and realized that someone outside was monitoring them, most likely Fugaku who had rushed back. He pretended to be innocent and said, what game is it? Is it fun? Of course it's fun. Come on, let me help you take off your clothes first. Nanoyu smiled sweetly and extended his jade hand to Yi Feng. Yi Feng's face suddenly looked a little weird, he was just cooperating with the other party's acting. But if the people listening outside never leave or show up, then won't the scene have to continue? How could his delicate body bear it? Fortunately, the person outside turned out to be Fugaku. After not hearing the imaginary message, he opened the door immediately. Seeing Fugaku standing at the door, Nanoyu's palm stretched out in the air fell on Yi Feng without any pause. Your clothes are wrinkled. Let me pat you. She carefully helped Yi Feng tidy up his clothes. Her sweet look was like a gentle big sister next door. Fugaku watched silently, not realizing that he had been discovered in advance. He walked into the room and said to Nanoyu, you should avoid it first. Nanoyu glanced at him. Although he was curious about how Yi Feng would explain all this, he also knew that he had no reason to stay. But just as she was about to get up, Yi Feng suddenly said, she doesn't need to avoid it, I want to tell you everything. Fugaku took a deep look at Nanoyu. He didn't understand why Yi Feng became more and more strange. He felt that he was hiding many secrets. And everything started from the moment she appeared. What happened in the battle with the Sand Ninja? Full of doubts, he slowly sat down and waited silently for Yi Feng's answer. Nanoyu glanced at Yi Feng with interest. She really didn't expect that Yi Feng would let her stay. But what she was more curious about was what kind of story he would make up. Yi Feng glanced at the two of them and said to himself, "Actually, I am the chakra reincarnation of Indra Otsutsuki." As soon as he finished speaking, he activated the three Magatama Sharingan eyes and his expression became grim. No Nayu was stunned for a moment, not understanding what Yi Feng meant. But after Fugaku thought for a moment, he suddenly showed a horrified expression. Indra is a name that Uchiha must remember. Because he is the ancestor of the Uchiha clan and the source of all bloodlines. Fugaku looked at Yi Feng in horror. His first reaction was disbelief. After all, in the eyes of ordinary people, the immortal of six paths and his two sons are mythical characters and do not exist in real life. Even the Uchiha clan has gradually forgotten this ancestor due to the long history. But looking at the cold three Magatama Sharingan in Yi Feng's eyes, Fugaku couldn't help but be shaken in his heart. Today, Yi Feng is only over 5 years old, but he has easily opened the three Magatama Sharingan, surpassing most of his clan members. This kind of talent is simply shocking. But if it is the chakra reincarnation of the ancestor, it would not be surprising to have such talents. After all, he is the origin of all bloodlines. However, Fugaku still didn't want to believe it. He opened his mouth, but he didn't know where to start. Yi Feng was of course aware of Fugaku's predicament. While he was full of doubts, he didn't know what to ask. After all, judging from the era in which he lived, he had no access to this knowledge, and it was impossible to verify it. He smiled softly, looked at the two of them and said, "Six Paths Immortal has two sons. The elder brother is called Otsutsuki Indra, and the younger brother is called Otsutsuki Asura. My brother was born with the eyes of an immortal, and he has perfectly inherited the excellent talents of the immortal of six paths. My younger brother was born with the body of an immortal, but his talent is not high and he can't do anything well." Nanoyu on the side was gradually surprised, and he couldn't understand why he suddenly mentioned the legendary sage of six paths. But she was meant to listen to stories, and she immediately listened with rapt attention. Fugaku did the same, realizing that Yi Feng wanted to prove his identity by telling the story. My elder brother Indra believes that strength is needed to achieve peace, while my younger brother Asura believes that love is necessary for peace. The two had differences in their ideas, and the most important thing is that the immortal of six paths chose Asura as his successor before he died. Indra could not accept this fact, and driven by jealousy, he went to war with Asura. The two of them could not stop fighting until they died. And this hatred has also continued into the bloodlines left by each other. That's the Uchiha clan and the Senju clan. Kid, you said so much, what does it have to do with you? Nanoyu asked nonchalantly. In her opinion, this was just a story made up by Yi Feng to deceive Uchiha Fugaku. This obviously asked what Fugaku was thinking, as he stared at Yi Feng with doubts on his face. Yi Feng chuckled. Don't be anxious, you will understand next. The Uchiha clan and the Senju clan were old enemies during the Warring States period. The two clans often fought each other and had a strong hatred. Brother Fugaku, you know this, right? Fugaku nodded. I know. Then do you know who the first chakra reincarnation of Indra and Asura was? They are very famous. Yi Feng smiled slyly. Fugaku showed a thoughtful expression, trying to recall the history of the Warring States period. But he thought about it, and the only Uchiha that he could think of in his mind about the Warring States period was that one. He was not particularly confident and said, "Is it Uchiha Madara?" There is no doubt that Madara Uchiha is definitely an extremely famous strong man in the history of Uchiha. Even though he later separated from his clan, he was still not forgotten. If that's the case, wouldn't the other one be the first Hokage, Senju Hashirama? Nanoyu covered his mouth in surprise, deeply admiring Yi Feng's ability to make up stories. Fugaku was also horrified, and the suspicion in his heart gradually weakened, and he became a little convinced. Yi Feng continued. Yes, Indra's chakra reincarnation is Uchiha Madara, and Asura's chakra reincarnation is Senju Hashirama. The two of them fell in love and killed each other. One of them used the unique powerful wood escape, and the other mastered the Mangekyo Sharingan to drive Susanoo. In the end, the two got tired of the war, joined forces to suppress the ninja world, and established Konoha. It's a pity that the hatred was too deep after all. The two finally fought in the Valley of the End, and both paid for it with their lives. Fugaku and Nanoyu obviously knew this history, and their attention was focused on one place. What is the Mangekyo Sharingan? You actually know about the Mangekyo Sharingan? Yi Feng looked at the two people who asked the question and said, the 3 Magatama Sharingan evolves into the Mangekyo Sharingan. Any ninja who turns on the Mangekyo Sharingan will have shadow-level strength. Having said this, he took a deep look at Fugaku. As the new reincarnation of Indra Chakra, I naturally know this. And I know more than you think. Fugaku fell into panic again and couldn't help but doubt himself. Could it be that Yi Feng is really the chakra reincarnation of Indra? Otherwise, how could he know this? Except for a few old men in the clan, probably no one has ever seen the real Mangekyo Sharingan. Even he himself was informed only after gaining the trust of the clan leader. Apart from the explanation of reincarnation, I am afraid there is no other answer. Fugaku lowered his head, believing more and more in Yi Feng's statement, but suddenly, he found that Yi Feng said a lot but did not solve his doubts. What he wanted to know most at the beginning was nothing more than what Yi Feng and No Naiyu had communicated individually and what their relationship was. Why did it suddenly come up that Indra's chakra was reincarnated? Fugaku rubbed his eyebrows and said with a headache, I tentatively believe that you are the reincarnation of Indra. But what I want to know is, what is the relationship between you and her, and what did you talk about behind my back? Yi Feng naturally knows this, but what he said before is also indispensable and can play many roles. First, find an excuse for your perverted talent. Second, let Fugaku's spirit fall into the post-excitement weakness to prevent him from discovering the loopholes in his words. Third, try to increase your voice in the clan as much as possible, so that you can borrow power to implement the plan without any hindrance. The most important point is that after 3 days of thinking, he found that he had underestimated Danzo too much. Originally, he thought that if the Uchiha clan came forward, Danzo would definitely compromise and let No regain his freedom. After all, in the original work, she managed to escape from her roots by herself. Now that the Uchiha clan is putting pressure on her, it must be easier. But this is not the original work after all, it is a real world. Yi Feng thought about it and thought it would be better to keep it a secret. And Danzo happened to have a fatal handle on him. So he took advantage of the situation and forged the identity of the reincarnation of Indra Chakra, which would have enough reasons to explain everything in the future. Explain why he knew Danzo's secret. Thinking of this, Yi Feng couldn't help but praise his wit and his strategizing style. But what comes next is the highlight of everything. He must convince Fugaku of the reason why he helped Nanoyu escape from his roots. After calming down a little, Yi Feng said, I have nothing to do with Sister Nanoyu, she just saved me. Seeing that he finally got to the point, Nanoyu smiled but was not in a hurry to speak. Fugaku obviously didn't believe this and asked directly, if she really saved you, then why do you need to avoid me and talk alone? Just say thank you. Yi Feng had already guessed Fugaku's attitude, and he thought about it for 3 whole days, and he not only came up with the excuse of Indra's reincarnation. He suddenly lowered his head shyly and said coyly, Sister Nanoyu really saved me. And the moment she saved me, I fell in love with her. That's why I want to talk to her alone. The corner of Fugaku's mouth twitched. He didn't expect Yi Feng to give such an explanation at all, and he still had strong distrust in his heart. No Naiyu on the side was also very surprised. Although he knew it was a lie, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth for no reason. Yi Feng continued, as I said before, I am the reincarnation of Indra's chakra, and I was born relatively precocious. Although this sounds weird, I really like Sister Nanoyu. Seeing Yi Feng's serious look, Fugaku held his head with a headache and carefully analyzed the loopholes. After a moment of silence, he said in a deep voice, when we met and you ran in front of her, I clearly felt a murderous intention. How do you explain this? Yi Feng said without showing any timidity. That's because Sister Nanoyu is from the root, and all ninjas in this organization must erase their own emotions. She saved me at that time, but I said it to my face. If the person who controls the root knows about it, Sister Nanoyu will definitely be punished. So she showed murderous intent and wanted to kill me to silence me, but she obviously gave up later. Fugaku's expression gradually became dull as he listened to Yi Feng's explanation, and his overwhelmed brain was almost unable to react. A large amount of information lingered in Fugaku's mind, making it impossible for him to tell whether it was true or false. But thinking about it carefully, there are no flaws in everything Yi Feng said. Although it is a bit incredible, there is no point to refute it. It is not uncommon in the ninja world to be rescued by a companion during a mission and fall in love with him. Although Yi Feng is just a child and still falls in love with Nanoyu, who is much older than her, it cannot be denied that this situation occurs. Also, what Yi Feng said at the beginning was that he was the reincarnation of Indra Chakra. Although Fugaku didn't want to believe it, Yi Feng's 3 Magatama Sharingan and the various secrets he told were enough to prove it. Fugaku rubbed his head, gradually choosing to believe in his heart and pushing his doubts aside. As for the person involved, No Nayu is also confused at this moment. Just now, she witnessed Yi Feng's ability to lie with her own eyes, making the dead appear alive. The unfolding of all this just adds a premise, that is, he fell in love with himself when he was saved by himself. If there is a mouth escape in this world, I, No Nayu, would like to call you the strongest. She looked at Fugaku and suddenly felt sorry for him. She almost lost track of him after being fooled by Yi Feng. But Fugaku is Fugaku after all. Although his mind was a little groggy, he still asked, "In that case, what were you talking about at that time?" "I was about to talk to brother Fugaku." Yi Feng smiled, looking innocent and harmless. "Because I fell in love with sister Nanoyu and she saved me again, so when we were talking alone, I promised to do something for her." Sister Nanoyu's wish is to break away from her roots and return to freedom. You agreed." Fugaku frowned, his intuition telling him that everything was not that simple. Yi Feng then said, "Of course I agreed. If Sister Nanoyu doesn't leave her roots, I won't be able to see her often and pursue her." Fugaku opened his mouth and was speechless for a moment. If he hadn't chosen to believe all this, he would have almost doubted whether this was Nanoyu's conspiracy. He took advantage of the opportunity to rescue Yi Feng to carry out an assassination, and then pretended to be pitiful to win his trust and sympathy. After that, he took advantage of the child's ignorance and continued to deceive him, thereby achieving the purpose of breaking away from the roots. But he has seen Yi Feng's maturity and no longer doubts that he is the reincarnation of Indra Chakra. If Nanoyu could really control Yi Feng like this, Fugaku could only pat his chest in admiration. At this moment, Fugaku finally understood everything, and sighed and said, "So the purpose of you saying all this is to help her?" Little brother, I really don't know how to describe you." Yi Feng pretended to smile relaxedly. "Brother Fugaku, in fact, there is nothing to hide that I am the reincarnation of Indra's chakra. After all, apart from being mentally mature and talented, there's nothing special about me. As for the information I know, it is very limited. Apart from knowing my own identity, it is of no great use at all. I haven't said it yet, just because I don't want to attract attention." Nanoyu secretly pouted, "Are you more mature? You are almost like an old monster. Even a little bit of talent. Then who are we people, just dust?" No Nayu gritted her teeth. If conditions allowed, she really wanted to beat Yi Feng. It's a pity, she is becoming less and less courageous. Because now, like Fugaku, she was about to believe everything he said, except that he liked her. But the reincarnation of Indra seems to be a certainty. At least Nanoyu couldn't find anything to refute. Uchiha bloodline, 3 Magatama at the age of 5, knows the secrets about the Sage of 6 Paths and others. She and Fugaku really couldn't refute it, so they could only choose to believe it. But she deeply understood that Yi Feng still had something to hide, at least he didn't reveal his weird abilities. In addition, maybe he also concealed other things. This person's thoughts are really too deep. No Nayu sat quietly aside, and unknowingly, he behaved more and more well-behaved. Fugaku sighed helplessly and looked at Nanoyu, who was lost in thought. After a while, he said, "She is a ninja at heart after all. If you want to help her escape, I'm afraid the clan leader will need to come forward." "Of course," Yi Feng said. Fugaku's eyes suddenly became a little deeper. "I'm afraid this is one of the reasons why you are willing to confess, right?" "That's right, if you don't confess, even with my talent of the 3 Magatama Sharingan, I can still get the clan leader to come forward. But after much thought, it is safer to confess after all. What's more, I don't want to create a gap with you, brother Fugaku." Seeing the familiar childlike smile on Yi Feng's face, Fugaku suddenly relaxed a lot and patted him on the shoulder. "In that case, let's go see the clan leader." If you want to get rid of the root, the sooner the better. I think so too. Yi Feng stood up, very satisfied with the current results. Nanoyu stood up obediently. She knew very well that the topic was about to come next. The reason why Yi Feng talked so much with Fugaku was simply because he didn't want to let go of their friendship. Otherwise, they would have gone to meet the clan leader as soon as possible when they returned to the clan area and clarify everything. The three of them walked out of the house together, letting the bright sunshine shine on them. Fugaku took a deep breath, feeling his heavy brain calm down a bit. He took steps silently, but actually he still had some doubts in his mind. But he thought about it and gave up continuing to pester. Anyway, as long as you are a human being, you will always have your own secrets, and Yi Feng is just his brother in name only, so there is no need to tell him everything. Just make sure that he will not harm the village and has no ill intentions towards the family. Regardless of whether he is the reincarnation of Indra's chakra or not, the talent he has shown is already worth every effort to win over. It's really not worth destroying the relationship just to explore the so-called secret. Thinking of this, Fugaku became more relaxed and his steps suddenly became brisk. Nanoyu also took a deep breath. What happened next would determine her fate. Whether it's death or freedom, it all depends on the boy next to him. But Yi Feng is the most relaxed among the three. Everything now is pretty much what he expected, and it can be regarded as a successful first step. As for the next meeting with the clan leader, he had no pressure at all. He only needed to repeat what he had said before. The whole process will even be simpler than convincing Fugaku. After all, the clan leader has seen Uchiha Madara, and even the Mangekyo Sharingan, and has truly witnessed the power of God. It must be easier to believe in the theory of reincarnation. After a while, the three of them arrived at the house of the clan leader, Uchiha Hyoka. After receiving permission, the three of them walked in together. In the living room, Uchiha Haicho was holding a teacup and sipping it with an obvious old look. But his eyes were bright, and he looked at the only foreigner among the three with slight surprise. Female, could it be that she has something to do with Fugaku? Is it a marriage? Uchiha Haicho thought for a moment and asked the three of them, "What do you want from me?" Fugaku said very respectfully, "Master Patriarch, can you talk to us alone?" Oh, Uchiha Haicho glanced at them suspiciously and waved his hand, "Please exit." After receiving the order, all the servants retreated, including the ninjas in the dark. "Tell me, what's the matter?" Uchiha Haicho asked. The three of them looked at each other, and Yi Feng said directly, "I came here today because I want to confess something to you, the Patriarch." Uchiha Haicho glanced at Yi Feng in surprise, and suddenly realized that the one who was really looking for him was probably him. He smiled kindly and said nonchalantly, "Xiao Yi Feng, what do you want from me? Could it be that Fugaku bullied you?" Yi Feng shook his head gently, his three Magatama Sharingan eyes instantly bloomed, and he said with a serious face, "Actually, I am the reincarnation of Indra's chakra." Three Magatama. Indra. Uchiha Haicho looked horrified and almost threw the teacup away. But he quickly calmed down, put the teacup on the table, looked at the three of them and said in a deep voice, "Yi Feng, although your talent is quite shocking. But do you know the consequences of cheating on me?" For a moment, a terrifying power emanated from Uchiha Hikyu, like a demon covered in blood, with a burning desire to kill. The three of them all looked a little pale, but Yi Feng gritted his teeth and said, "I definitely didn't lie to you." Afterwards, Yi Feng repeated what he had said before, and Uchiha Hikyu's power gradually weakened until it disappeared. After listening, he lowered his head in silence, his eyes flickering on and off. After digesting it for a while, he said, "You actually know the secrets of the descendants of the Six-Path Sage, and you also know about the Mangekyo Sharingan. Based on these 2 points alone, I have no reason to say I don't believe it anymore." At this point, his conversation suddenly changed and his eyes became sharp. "But if Madara Uchiha is really the chakra reincarnation of Indra, why have I never heard him tell anyone about it? Even Senju Hashirama, who can't keep secrets, never mentioned it." Nanoyu's heartstrings tightened suddenly. After all, this was related to her future. If Yi Feng failed to gain the trust of Uchiha Fichiu, everything would be wiped out. Fugaku's mood was also a little tense. Now he no longer cares whether this is a lie or not. He is completely on Yi Feng's side. Yi Feng smiled, knowing that an old antique like Uchiha Hyoka was not as easy to fool as Fugaku, so he had already prepared his words. Because the two of them do not have corresponding reincarnation memories. Strictly speaking, no one will have any memory after reincarnation. But I am an extreme exception. Uchiha Haicho stared at Yi Feng with sharp eyes and asked in a deep voice, "How do you say this?" "I should exist, but I shouldn't exist," Yi Feng said, pretending to be profound. But he did not play charades and explained, "My reincarnation as Indra's chakra was actually a mistake. Because in this generation, there is no chakra reincarnation of Asura. I don't know what's going on, but it's definitely not normal. Given the relationship between Indra and Asura, their reincarnations must have occurred at the same time, creating a strong bond." Speaking of this, Yi Feng said lightly, "I should exist in the world as Uchiha Yi Feng, and I should not be burdened with the identity of Indra's reincarnation. But I don't know what happened here. I only know that from birth, the information about the reincarnation of Indra Chakra has been in my mind." After finishing speaking, Yi Feng spread his hands without any burden and looked at Uchiha Haicho with a childlike expression. I saw him scratching his sparse hair and frowning tightly. In fact, when Yi Feng told the secrets of the Six-Path Sage, the Mangekyo Sharingan and other top-secret information, he believed it a little bit. The subsequent questioning is just to make this matter more certain. What he is thinking about now is Yi Feng's sense of belonging. After a short period of contact, he had already seen that Yi Feng was very mature and not at all as innocent as he appeared. But now, he has only lived in the clan for a year, so he probably doesn't have much sense of belonging. Even if he is really the chakra reincarnation of the ancestor Indra, it is impossible for him to feel a sense of belonging to a group for no reason. This kind of thing needs to be cultivated from an early age. But with Yi Feng's maturity, this kind of training may not be effective. After hesitating for a moment, he asked, "Uchiha Yi Feng, do you recognize the Uchiha clan?" "Of course I agree, we are definitely the most powerful clan in the ninja world," Yi Feng said without hesitation, and at the same time realized that Uchiha Haicho had believed in his identity as the reincarnation of Indra. The next moment, Yi Feng took advantage of the victory and pursued it. "Although my reincarnation may be wrong, I believe that I must be carrying a special mission. For example, revitalize the Uchiha clan." As soon as these words came out, Uchiha Hyoka and Fugaku were inexplicably excited, and they seemed to have the idea of revitalizing the Uchiha clan. Since Uchiha Madara left the family, the Uchiha clan has lost its status as a high-ranking member of Konoha. Although compared to the decline of the Senju clan, the Uchiha clan still maintains a prosperous population, but it has entered a path of decline and is about to be surpassed by the new wealthy Hyuga clan. This situation made Uchiha Hyoka and Fugaku, who cared about the position of clan leader, very worried, fearing that the Uchiha clan would wither away like the Senju clan. Uchiha Haicho asked with a little anticipation, "Then what do you think about this?" Yi Feng said without any timidity, "Since Uchiha Madara left the family, our family has been isolated from the top management of Konoha. And this is all because of the policies of the second Hokage. Having experienced the Warring States period, he does not trust the Uchiha clan. But the current group of people are either dead or have retreated to the background. There are very few people who harbor hatred towards our Uchiha clan. And the Sandaime doesn't have many days left in his prime." Hearing this, Uchiha Hyoka and Fugaku understood what he meant, and asked slightly excitedly, "Do you think the Uchiha clan should run for the fourth Hokage?" Yi Feng glanced at the two of them, and his face turned cold. "Run for election? The position of Hokage should belong to us Uchiha." Yi Feng's words were full of tyranny, which instantly stunned the three of them. He continued, "Konoha was founded by the Senju clan and the Uchiha clan. But the first and second generation are both members of the Senju clan. Where does this put us, the Uchiha clan? At the time of the third generation, we Uchiha did not have a powerful ninja that dazzled the whole village. Sarutobi Hiruzen had the support of the second generation. But the position of the fourth generation will be determined by our Uchiha clan." The domineering words echoed in the ears of the three of them, causing them to remain silent for a long time. Uchiha Fichiu looked at the young Yi Feng, and suddenly seemed to see Uchiha Madara, and his hands couldn't help but tremble. This domineering look really resembles him. Maybe he is really the reincarnation of Indra and can lead our family to reach the top again. Uchiha Haicho smiled happily. "You are so ambitious. It seems that even if the old man I die one day, I can rest assured." Yi Feng smiled and shook his head. Master Patriarch, you will definitely live a long life and witness the re-rise of the Uchiha clan. Okay, old man, I'm waiting for that day. Uchiha Haicho waved his hand and turned his gaze to Nanoyu, who kept his head lowered. Tell me, what do you want to see me for? He didn't believe that Yifeng and others came to him just to tell him about Indra's reincarnation. Even so, there is no need to bring a foreign woman with me. I really can't hide it from the Patriarch. Yifeng smiled and scratched his head, pretending to be shy and said, I came here today. I really have something to ask of you. Tell me, as the reincarnation of Indra, I will definitely help you, old man. Uchiha Hikyu said nonchalantly. Now that Yifeng has proven his identity and sense of belonging, he deserves corresponding treatment. A portion is far beyond the treatment of ordinary clan members, even comparable to that of the clan leader. Yifeng breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, and said without any change on his face, Master Patriarch, I would like to ask you to come forward and help Sister No Naiu escape from the root. No, is that her? Uchiha Hyoka turned his attention to the only girl in the room. Yifeng nodded and continued, yes, Sister No Naiu saved my life a few days ago. And, I also like her, and I hope to help her get rid of her roots. Oh, I thought you were mature, but I didn't expect you to be so mature. Uchiha Hikyu joked casually. But even though he said that, he felt vaguely in his heart that this matter was not as simple as Yifeng said. He changed the subject and looked at Fugaku. Fugaku, do you agree with this? Out of consideration, he did not directly ask whether the matter was true, but wanted to find out the matter through Fugaku's attitude. Fugaku naturally knew this and said without any hesitation, I agree. Uchiha Haicho nodded. Although he felt a little strange, seeing that Fugaku agreed with the matter, he didn't ask any more questions. After all, he was not familiar with Yifeng, but Fugaku was like his own child. He had watched him grow up since he was a child and had enough trust in him. In that case, let's go find the Sandaime now. Uchiha Haicho stood up and looked out the door. It's not easy to get rid of the root. After a while, Yifeng and his party came to the Hokage building and met the Sandaime Hokage. I wonder what is going on that would bother the Uchiha clan leader to come in person. Hiruzen Sarutobi took a deep breath from his pipe, his expression a little solemn. Uchiha Haicho smiled, stroking his pale beard and said, Sandaime, don't be nervous, it's just some trivial things for young people. Oh, what's that? Hiruzen Sarutobi turned his attention to Yifeng and others, thinking secretly. Uchiha Fuchiu did not beat around the bush and said directly, this medicine master Nono Uno is a ninja in the root. He saved Uchiha Yifeng's life in Fengwo City. It's interesting to say that after Yifeng was rescued by Nanoyu, he fell in love with her and hoped to help her get rid of her roots and return to a free life. In this case, Yifeng can pursue her and even start a family. Old man, I am getting older, my heart is getting softer and softer, and I also want to do some good deeds with the beauty of adulthood. I came to visit you, the Sandaime, hoping to free Nanoyu from his roots. Sarutobi Hiruzen frowned the moment he heard the root. His eyes turned to Yifeng and Nanoyu, and his heart was full of doubts. Just because Yifeng likes the other party, Uchiha Haicho is willing to bring people here and personally ask him to let her get away from the roots. This is too magical, I always feel like there is some conspiracy. These Uchiha have to be guarded against. Subconsciously, Sarutobi Hiruzen was ready to refuse, but he was the Hokage after all, and Uchiha Hikyu came forward in person. If you refuse rashly, I am afraid it will have a very negative impact. After a moment of silence, Sarutobi Hiruzen said, of course I am willing to help you, a good-looking man with an adult body. But the root is an organization directly affiliated with Danzo. It was stipulated at the beginning of its establishment that even the Hokage cannot interfere in its affairs. Uchiha Haicho frowned. He had already put down his body and came to you personally, Sarutobi Hiruzen, what is your answer? However, he also had certain expectations. He took a deep breath and said, then I'll trouble the Sandaime to summon Danzo, and I'll have a talk with him. Sarutobi Hiruzen exhaled thick smoke. Although he didn't know what the Uchiha clan was planning, they were obviously very determined. And he didn't refuse anymore, nodded and sent the ninja to summon Danzo. After a while, Danzo slowly walked into the Hokage's office. Hiruzen, are you looking for me? The leader of the Uchiha clan is looking for you. Hiruzen Sarutobi pointed at Yifeng and others with his pipe in hand, getting rid of the trouble completely. Danzo looked at Uchiha Hyoka in surprise. The two of them had always been in an antagonistic relationship, with almost no intersection. But when he saw Nanoyu hiding behind Uchiha, he suddenly realized something and said in a deep voice, "The chief of the Uchiha clan is looking for me, could it be because of the woman behind you?" Uchiha Haicho looked at him indifferently and said in a deep voice, "Nanoyu has been kind to our clan. We must help her get rid of her roots and regain her freedom." Danzo glanced at Nono with a sinister look, making her tremble instinctively. "Nono is a ninja at my core, and you Uchiha have no right to decide whether she will stay or go." "Danzo, are you sure you don't want to talk?" Uchiha Hikyu had an icy aura all over his body, which made people feel frightened. But Danzo is not an incompetent person. He is also a strong man who has emerged from a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. He is not afraid of this momentum at all. "Of course we can talk, I can even agree. But you, the Uchiha clan, must hand over 2 ninjas to join the roots." Chapter 31. This is simply wishful thinking. Uchiha Haicho was furious. "I'll give you the same words," Danzo said without any hesitation. For a moment, the two were at war with each other, and it seemed that the battle was about to begin in the next moment. Pharmacist No Nayu's body was trembling, and she realized deeply that she might have lost the bet. She never expected that Danzo would not give any face to Uchiha, who was a wealthy family in Konoha. There seemed to be hatred between the two parties. But she didn't know, and would Yifeng, who planned all this, also not know? Thinking of this, she looked at Yifeng desperately, but saw a pair of bright eyes full of confidence. "How can he be so confident?" "Don't worry, I have a backup plan," Yifeng said softly, stretched out his little hand and held Nanoyu's palm. As if feeling Yifeng's confidence, No Nayu held the small hand in his palm and gradually calmed down. "Calm down, everyone." Seeing that a dispute was about to break out, Hiruzen Sarutobi, who was watching the show, spoke up. He continued, "Although I really want the beauty of adulthood to let Nanoyu escape from the roots. But she is a ninja at the root after all, and Danzo makes the decision. Since Danzo doesn't agree, let's forget about it." Uchiha Haicho's eyes suddenly rose with cruelty, and he was very dissatisfied with Sarutobi Hiruzen's handling. But just when he was about to get angry, a small hand suddenly pulled his sleeve. Looking back, I saw Yifeng shaking his head, indicating that he should stop fighting. How could Hikyu Uchiha be willing to just give up? He had already promised Yifeng. If he backed down, where would he put his old face? Yifeng naturally knew this and hurriedly whispered, "Master Patriarch, let's go back first. I have backup plans." Uchiha Haicho was stunned for a moment. If he had a backup plan, it wouldn't be called retreating. After weighing it, he waved his sleeves and walked towards the door with a cold face. "Let's go." Then, Yifeng took Nanoyu's hand and walked towards the door with Fugaku. But Danzo's cold voice came out, "Wait. You can leave, but Nanoyu is my root ninja, and you must follow me back to my roots." Nanoyu trembled all over, as if he had thought of the misery of being punished. Yifeng squeezed his palm hard, and suddenly turned around with a cry and looked at the sandaime. "Hokage-sama, Sister Nunoyu saved my life, can you let her stay with me for a day? I can't bear to leave her." Seeing Yifeng's distressed look, Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly felt embarrassed. He felt as if he was bullying a child, and his heart was full of guilt. If it's only for one day, it's better to be satisfied, so as not to be said to be unkind by Uchiha. He quickly showed a kind smile and said to Yifeng, "If it only takes one day, I, the Hokage, can still make the decision. Let's go back." "Thank you, Hokage-sama." Yifeng burst into laughter and pulled Nanoyu out of the Hokage's office quickly. Several people even heard Danzo's roar from a distance. "Hiruzen, what are you doing?" Sarutobi Hiruzen glanced at Danzo, smoked a cigarette and said, Okay, it's just a day, not forever. I will not interfere with your roots." Danzo also calmed down. Just one day was really not worth his attention. He said with a sullen face, "What do the Uchiha clan want to do by doing this? Who knows, let's ask the surveillance Anbu to keep a closer eye." Sarutobi Hiruzen shook his head. Danzo said nothing and walked outside with a gloomy face. He is becoming more and more dissatisfied with those dirty Uchiha guys. The 4 of them walked on Konoha Avenue. All of them were silent, but except for Yifeng, they all had deep doubts in their hearts. Yi Feng knew this and said, "Don't worry, there won't be any problem. I will tell everyone what to do when I get back to the clan." Everyone nodded and said nothing more. After a while, they returned to Uchiha Hyoka's courtyard. After removing all the ears and eyes again, Uchiha Fichiu cast his eyes on Yi Feng. Yi Feng pondered for a while and then said, "Before I tell you my back plan, I want to ask you something, the patriarch." "Oh," Uchiha Haicho looked at him in confusion, "what's the matter?" "I want to know, in your memory, whether Danzo has ever formed a team with any Uchiha tribesman. And this tribesman is already dead, and the body cannot be recovered. Why do you suddenly ask this?" Uchiha Haicho gently stroked his beard and began to think. As soon as he thought about it, a name came to his mind. Uchiha Mirror. Back then, he was a member of the Nadime's elite guard force, and was teammates with Hiruzen Sarutobi, Danzo Shimura and others. It's a pity that he and the second generation died together in Kumobaku's rebellion, and their bodies were never recovered. "What, could it be that you suspect Danzo?" "Yes, I doubt him." Yi Feng nodded firmly. "As far as I know, after that battle, Danzo wrapped the right half of his head in a bandage and claimed that it was injured and disfigured. But when I just met Danzo, maybe because I am the reincarnation of Indra's chakra, I have a special feeling for the Uchiha bloodline. I clearly noticed that Danzo's right eye contains the fluctuations of the Sharingan." As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked, including Nanoyu, who was a foreigner. She immediately thought that if what Yi Feng said was true and Danzo really had the Sharingan, this alone would be enough to plunge him into a place of eternal destruction. After all, the Sharingan is too important to the Uchiha clan, just like the Byakugan is to the Hyuga clan, and it is absolutely not allowed to wander outside. But Yi Feng obviously hadn't finished speaking yet, and suddenly a sinister smile appeared on his face. "In addition, I also suspect that this Sharingan was obtained by Danzo by killing the Uchiha Mirror. In that battle, after the second Hokage broke out, there were 6 people in the team. Why was it that Uchiha Kagami was the only one who died? After this, Danzo has the Sharingan, but don't tell me that the Uchiha Mirror gave it to him." Boom! Uchiha Hikyu suddenly smashed the table into pieces. Based on his understanding of Danzo over the years, there is no way that this Sharingan was given to him by the Uchiha Mirror. And Uchiha Kagami was the clan member he was most optimistic about back then, and he had even been tipped to be the next clan leader. He even hopes to become the 3rd Hokage. But in the end, he died inexplicably, and even his body could not be recovered. So, was it all done by that guy Danzo? Uchiha Haicho clenched his fist tightly and asked Yi Feng, "Are you sure that Danzo's right eye must be the Sharingan?" Yi Feng patted his chest with certainty, "I'm 100% sure." "Okay, I'll go find Danzo right now." Uchiha Haicho stood up angrily. Combining the clues from previous years, he had completely believed Yi Feng. Just like what he said, even though there was clearly a second-generation Hokage, only Uchiha Kagami was killed in the 6-man team for some reason. After that, Danzo permanently covered his right eye and claimed that he was disfigured. Uchiha Hikyu doesn't believe that Danzo, who has a dark heart, cares about appearance. The only explanation is that he has something to hide. After thinking about it for a moment, a picture almost appeared in Uchiha Haicho's mind. The dark and despicable Danzo took advantage of the Uchiha Mirror's trust in his teammates to sneak attack him to death and take away the Sharingan. Afterwards, he destroyed the corpse, covered up his right eye with Sharingan transplant, and lied that he was injured and disfigured. Uchiha Hikyu believed that with Danzo's character, he could definitely do such a thing. He stepped forward angrily, but was stopped by Yi Feng. "Master Patriarch, what's the use of going now? Even if Danzo lifts the gauze and reveals the Sharingan inside, what else can we do besides getting it back?" After hearing Yi Feng's words, Uchiha Haicho calmed down a little. After thinking about it carefully, he really couldn't do anything. He couldn't prove that Danzo's Sharingan came from the Uchiha Mirror, let alone that Danzo killed him. He looked at Yi Feng doubtfully and asked, "What do you think?" "Kill him," Yi Feng said coldly. As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. They didn't expect Yi Feng to have such a decisive murderous intention. Yi Feng explained, "In the original 6-person team, Uchiha Kagami died, and Akamichi Taifeng became an elite Junin. The other 4 people, who make up the current top management of Konoha, are all influenced by the second Hokage and are always on guard against the Uchiha clan. Sarutobi Hiruzen is the Hokage, Shimura Danzo is the secret root, and Mito Katoin and Kaden Kaharu are the Hokage advisors. The four of them can be said to be the Uchiha clan's biggest enemies in the village. But at the same time, they also hold all the power of Konoha and cannot allow others to interfere. Clan leader, do you think that even if you reveal Danzo's Sharingan and reveal the fact that he killed Uchiha Mirror, even if Sarutobi Hiruzen and the others believe it, will they allow us to deal with Danzo? Uchiha Haicho sat down thoughtfully and gradually understood Yi Feng's thoughts. He looked at the cold Yi Feng, with a coldness in his eyes as well. So that's what you told Hiruzen Sarutobi all day long. That's right, this day is the time left for us, the Uchiha clan, to prepare. Yi Feng nodded, revealing the cold 3 Magatama Sharingan. When we meet Danzo again tomorrow, it will be his death. Uchiha Haicho looked at him deeply, and then said to Fugaku, Fugaku, follow me to the clan later. Tomorrow will be the prelude to our Uchiha clan's return to glory. Yi Feng took Nanoyu out of Uchiha Hyoka's house and walked towards his house. Nanoyu followed him silently, feeling that he had spent a magical day and was numb to the successive shocks and worries. But everything now has completely deviated from the original plan of her and Yi Feng. In other words, it's just her plan. Yi Feng had already guessed the situation he might face at the beginning and figured out a way to deal with it. His plan was even bigger and more complicated than what was initially discussed. After this series of events, she has completely believed that Yi Feng is the reincarnation of Indra's chakra. The only way to explain how evil this kid is this. Nanoyu sighed silently, feeling that he had become a pawn and a tool in the game between the Uchiha clan and the higher-ups of the village. And the initiator of all this was Yi Feng, who she thought could save her from her roots. Sensing Nanoyu's sigh, Yi Feng looked at her with a smile. What? Do you regret cooperating with me? More than just regret, if I had known that Danzo had a grudge against you Uchiha, I would never have shown up that day. Nanoyu frowned, his face gloomy. Yi Feng laughed jokingly. So what, even if you really break away from the roots on your own, do you think he will let you go easily? Sometimes, being too capable can be a source of trouble. When Danzo has no one available, do you think he will threaten you without any limit and make you come back? Nanoyu shuddered. Based on her understanding of Danzo, that person had no feelings at all and could definitely do such a thing. But she still said naively, as long as there is no war, he will not be short of people. How naive. Only when Danzo dies can you have true freedom. Yi Feng said coldly. Nanoyu's eyes flashed suddenly. Although he was filled with fear of Danzo, he was instinctively thinking about Yi Feng's words. Yes, that's right, as long as Danzo is dead, no one can threaten you or interfere with your life. Danzo, it would be better if he died. Nanoyu's hands trembled, and she was a little afraid of the thoughts in her mind, but when she looked at Yi Feng's figure, she gradually started to laugh. Anyway, they are all involved, either gamble to the end and win the free life you want, or become a victim of political struggle and die miserably. This result seems to be no different from what was expected before. Her smile became brighter and brighter, and she followed Yi Feng silently, her mood gradually becoming peaceful. Not long after the two left, two figures silently walked out of the clan leader's house and strolled through the clan. It was Uchiha Hyoka and Uchiha Fugaku. They began to run around purposefully, and from time to time they walked into a house, and they didn't know what they talked about. When I got home, it was already evening. Yi Feng and Nanayu walked into the house and sat in the living room. Brother Fugaku probably won't come over. You should know how to cook, right? Yi Feng glanced at Nanoyu. Of course. Nanoyu raised his head confidently, then stood up and walked to the kitchen. Yi Feng looked at her busy back and sighed silently. She was indeed the woman who founded the orphanage. Her cooking skills must be very good. Thinking of this, Yi Feng smiled and waited. But within the clan, there was an undercurrent that was rising and surging. But all this has nothing to do with Yi Feng. He knew Danzo's secrets well and was in an invincible position before everything started. Tomorrow, it depends on the performance of the clan leader and the others. Is this your cooking skill? Yi Feng looked at the strange-shaped and burnt-colored dishes on the table, and his eyes couldn't help but widen. What's going on? Try it quickly, it's delicious. Nanoyu said without realizing it. But Yi Feng obviously won't try it. He would rather starve to death than take a bite of this dark dish. Sighing silently, Yi Feng decided to abandon laziness and make enough food and clothing by himself. Then, he slowly walked into the kitchen and started busy. You really don't know what to buy. Nanoyu curled his lips, picked up the dishes and put them in his mouth with great anticipation. Vomit. As soon as he took it into his mouth, Nanoyu vomited it out in disgust and looked at the table full of dishes in disbelief. She murmured silently, "When did my cooking skills become so bad?" Just when she was doubting herself, a burst of fragrance suddenly came from the kitchen and poured into her nostrils. This smells so good. Nanoyu turned his attention to the kitchen, saw Yi Feng who was busy on the chair, and secretly poked his head. After watching silently for a while, Yi Feng ended everything and walked out with 2 plates of dishes. Nanoyu quickly turned around, sat down at the table, and carelessly stirred up his own dishes. Yi Feng silently placed the 2 plates of food on the table, lifted up the rice and began to eat happily. But not long after eating, a loud swallowing sound spread throughout the room. Gulu. Yi Feng couldn't help but laugh and said, "Eat it if you want." At this time, Nanoyu didn't care about his face anymore, picked up the dishes and stuffed them into his mouth. As soon as she took the entrance, she started to ecstasy intoxicatedly. "Ah! It's delicious." Yi Feng smiled and said nothing. He was joking. Before he traveled through time, he aimed at being a good man, and his superb cooking skills were a standard feature. In this year's life, he has to cook, and his cooking skills have not deteriorated at all. The 2 of them ate haphazardly. Yi Feng was still restrained, but Nanoyu didn't put down his chopsticks until he finished all the dishes. But a stark contrast was left on the table. The dishes cooked by the 2 of them were completely eaten while they were not touched at all. Nanoyu quickly cleared the table with a slight embarrassment and threw all the evidence into the trash can. Then, she sat down calmly and asked aloud, "Why are you not worried about tomorrow at all? Do you need to worry? Danzo has already lost," Yi Feng said nonchalantly. Nanoyu thought about it for a moment, and it was indeed as Yi Feng said, Danzo had already lost. After all, Danzo would definitely be at a disadvantage just by relying on the Sharingan of unknown origin. The Uchiha clan will definitely gather a large number of elites to kill Danzo the moment his Sharingan is exposed. Everything seems to have been won. Nanoyu couldn't help but get excited, but Yi Feng suddenly poured cold water on him. "Don't get excited, Danzo may not die." Based on his understanding of Sarutobi Hiruzen, even if Danzo really killed Uchiha Kagami, he would probably come forward to save Danzo. And Danzo himself is not that easy to kill. Even if Hikyu Uchiha possesses cage-level strength, how much can he perform now that he is old? After all, Fugaku and other elites have not reached cage-level strength. Even if they join forces, they may not be able to kill Danzo quickly. What's more, Yi Feng is not sure whether the current Danzo has mastered the Uchiha clan's forbidden arts. Izanagi. If Danzo saves his life by this, he will definitely be able to delay the 3rd generation to come forward. Strictly analyzed, the possibility of killing Danzo is not very high. But Nanoyu didn't know this and asked doubtfully, "Why?" Because of the Sandame's attitude, he was indecisive and kind-hearted, and he would never watch Danzo being killed by Uchiha. Yi Feng explained. Nanoyu exclaimed, "If Danzo doesn't die, won't he take revenge on you?" Yi Feng chuckled lightly. "Just take revenge, he won't be able to bounce around for a few more years. But if I grow up a few years, I will kill him myself." Having said this, Yi Feng's eyes were a little colder, but he quickly softened and looked at Nanoyu. "But don't worry, the reason why I encourage the clan leader to lead the clan to kill Danzo is to make this matter bigger. When the time comes, the Hyuga clan, which also attaches great importance to the blood pupil technique, will definitely support us, and Danzo's reputation will become even worse. You will also gain the freedom you dream of." Late at night, Hiruzen Sarutobi walked to the window of the house and asked in a deep voice, "What's going on?" An Anbu ninja lying under the windowsill reported, "Uchiha Hyoka took Uchiha Fugaku around the clan and talked with many clan members. After analysis, nothing special was found. It seemed to be just a normal movement." Sarutobi Hiruzen took a puff of cigarette and ordered, "Go down." The Anbu ninja didn't reply, and disappeared into the night in a flash. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at the bright moon in the sky and frowned slightly. This Uchiha Hikyu can serve as the leader of a clan, so he must know how to choose and not cause too much trouble because of this matter. Although Uchiha Yifeng is indeed a rare genius, Uchiha Haicho should know which one is more important. After thinking for a moment, Sarutobi Hiruzen put aside his worries and walked back to the room without taking the Anbu ninja's report to heart. At the same time, in Uchiha Hyoka's residence, several figures gathered here, staring at Uchiha Hikyu standing in the center. These people are all elite Junin of the Uchiha clan. Although there are only about 10 people, they still account for more than half of the elite Jonin in the entire Konoha village. They all avoided surveillance and arrived here quite covertly. Uchiha Haicho looked at the crowd and said, "We are gathered here just for one thing. That is to recreate the glory of Uchiha." As soon as these words came out, everyone was slightly excited. They knew very well what the current Uchiha situation was like. Glory is already far away from them. Uchiha Hikyu didn't waste any time and said in a deep voice, "I got the exact information that the right eye of Shimura Danzo, a high-ranking member of Konoha, contains my clan's Sharingan. And the owner of this Sharingan is our clan's former genius ninja, Uchiha Mirror." Hearing this, everyone immediately became excited, and they all activated their 3 Magatama Sharingan eyes. Suddenly, a cold breath echoed in the room, biting to the bone. "How dare he touch my clan's Sharingan, he really doesn't know how to live or die. Our clan's Sharingan must not fall into the hands of outsiders, it must be taken back. Clan leader, let's go find him now." Uchiha Haicho waved his hand, and everyone immediately stopped talking and looked at him. After a moment of pause, he activated the Sharingan with a cold expression. "Duanzo, must die, but not now." Looking at the excited clan members, Uchiha Haicho raised his hand. "Tomorrow morning, I will go to the Hokage building and reveal Danzo's disguise in person. Everyone is hiding in the dark. Once Danzo lifts the gauze, the Sharingan in his right eye is revealed. Show up immediately and kill him at all costs." Sen Leng's words did not arouse everyone's discomfort, but instead made them excited, with blood shining in their eyes. "Yes." Uchiha Haicho nodded with satisfaction and waved his hands to everyone. In an instant, all the Uchiha clan members fled and disappeared in an instant. Uchiha Haicho looked at the cold moonlight alone, his whole body shrouded in darkness. At sunrise, the soft morning light climbed up the windowsill, slipped into the room quietly, and fell on the 2 figures. Feeling the warmth of the morning light, pharmacist Nanoyu woke up keenly and wanted to struggle to get up. "But when I saw the old ceiling, I suddenly realized that I had returned to Konoha and had a place where I could feel at ease." But just when she relaxed, she suddenly felt something was different about her body. At a glance, Yifeng was seen crawling in her arms, his head resting on the 2 peaks unconsciously. What's even more outrageous is that one of Yifeng's palms shamelessly penetrated her collar and touched the peaks. Seeing this scene, Nono Nayu became a little wary of the current Yifeng, but the anger in his heart could not be suppressed at all. She clenched her fist suddenly and swung it at Yifeng, who looked like an idiot. "Ah!" Yifeng cried out in pain, and his young body hit the corner of the wall. He struggled to get up and cast a look at Nanoyu, who had a gloomy look on his face. "You're so good, why did you hit me? You know what you did." Nanoyu gritted his teeth, wishing he could punch him a few more times. Although she used to sell her in order to complete her tasks and gradually learned to use it, an idiom to describe a prostitute, she still cherishes her own body. Who would have thought that a kid would touch a part that had never been touched by anyone else? But how could Yifeng know this? He rubbed his red face and wondered, "What did I do? Am I not sleeping? You are shameless. Eat my tofu while others are sleeping." Nanoyu no longer cared about his face and said it bluntly. At this time, Yifeng vaguely understood. He keenly noticed that Nanoyu's collar was not neat, but rather loose, as if he could reach in. Could it be that I was dreaming about eating steamed buns, and what I ate was? But I can't put my head in. Yifeng coughed a few times with some embarrassment, scratched his head and said calmly, "I'm just a child, so I don't count eating tofu, right? You just look like a child, but you might be an old pervert on the inside." After yesterday, Yi Nayu stopped treating Yifeng as a child. "But I didn't mean it." Yifeng spread his hands, feeling helpless. Nanoyu gritted her teeth viciously. Of course she knew this, otherwise it wouldn't be as simple as just punching her. But she really couldn't swallow this breath. She looked at the old room and said, "From now on, you can sleep in the living room. This room is mine." There was no other place for her to live in Konoha except the roots. Even if she successfully escaped from the roots today, she would have to stay with Yifeng for a while longer. She didn't want what just happened to happen again. Yes, Yifeng reluctantly agreed. If the house wasn't too old and there was only one bedroom, he wouldn't want to sleep in the same room as Nanoyu. After all, Nanoyu's appearance and figure are still very impressive. Being in a room, he would inevitably see some blood-soaking scenes. It's a pity, his 5-year-old body is not strong enough to support the actions his heart desires. It seems that it only makes the pain more uncomfortable. Okay, let's pack up quickly and go with the clan leader to meet the Sandaime. Yifeng tidied up his clothes melancholy and slowly walked outside. Nanoyu smiled slightly with satisfaction, then arranged his clothes and walked out. The gate of the Uchiha clan. Yifeng took Nono and Uchiha Hyoka Fugaku through the Cherry Blossom Avenue together. And as they walked out of the tribe, figures lurked in the darkness and followed them quietly. After a while, Yifeng and his party came to the Hokage building and met the third-generation Sarutobi Hiruzen. Seeing the four of them, Sarutobi Hiruzen instinctively frowned and asked in a deep voice, "What's the matter?" Uchiha Hikyu said with a cold face, "Sandaime, I want to negotiate with Danzo again. Please call him over." "That's it, but let me make a promise first. If Danzo still doesn't agree this time, Nanoyu will return to the roots immediately, and there won't be another day." Sarutobi Hiruzen was smoking leisurely. He was not optimistic about this negotiation from the bottom of his heart. Based on his understanding of Danzo, unless Uchiha Hikyu agreed to his request, it would never be successful. "You, just sit back and watch a good show." He chuckled lightly and summoned the Anbu ninja to summon Danzo. Just as the Anbu ninja took off, another Anbu in the same dress appeared next to Sarutobi Hiruzen. After whispering, Sarutobi Hiruzen showed a horrified expression and asked Uchiha Hikyu in a deep voice, "What's going on with the Uchiha ninjas hiding outside? Do you want to rebel?" Uchiha Haicho looked at him calmly, leaned slightly and said, "We, the Uchiha clan, are part of Konoha and will never do such things." "Then what do you want to do?" The Sandaime looked gloomy and suddenly thought of something. Could it be that it's aimed at Danzo? "Sandaime, you can just watch, but let me reiterate again, Uchiha will never do anything to harm Konoha," Uchiha Hyoka said. For a moment, Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression was uncertain, and he was somewhat unsure of Uchiha Hikyu's true intention. Although he instinctively distrusted the other party, Uchiha Hikyu was the leader of the clan after all, and his words had a certain weight. After thinking for a while, he summoned the Anbu ninja and gave some orders. Yifeng and others saw this scene in their eyes, and they knew very well that the order given by the Sandaime was nothing more than to gather all Anbu ninjas to come here. The reason why we don't do it quietly is just to tell them, "I've called people, please be honest." However, Yifeng and others don't care, as long as they succeed in getting Danzo to lift the gauze and reveal the hidden Sharingan. Even if Sarutobi Hiruzen wants to keep him, he must pay a certain price. After a while, Danzo walked into the Hokage's office with a gloomy face. As soon as he entered, he said to Uchiha Haicho, "What? Do you agree to my conditions?" "Of course not," Uchiha Hyoka responded calmly. "Then why did you call me here?" "We have nothing to talk about," Danzo said coldly. Uchiha Haicho suddenly laughed, stroking his beard and said in a profound voice, "That's not necessarily the case." "Humph, you're so annoying." Danzo snorted coldly, then turned around to leave. Although he didn't know that there were several elite Uchiha ninjas hidden outside, he always had an ominous premonition ever since he came here. But Uchiha Haicho's words made him stop suddenly. "Duanzo, what is hidden under your gauze as the Sharingan?" As soon as these words came out, even Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was sitting leisurely aside, was startled. Hiding the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan privately is no small matter. Danzo's hands couldn't help but tremble, and a turmoil arose in his heart. Except for a few ninjas at the root, no one else knew about this matter. He turned around pretending to be calm and said in a cold voice, "Nonsense, this was caused by my injuries during the rebellion of the Kumoyan Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers. At that time, if the second Hokage hadn't sacrificed his life, Hiruzen and I would both have died there." "Don't get excited, it's not you who died." Uchiha Haicho looked at Danzo calmly, his eyes were like abyss, wanting to swallow him up. Inexplicably, Danzo's heart suddenly trembled, as if Uchiha Hyoka had other intentions. When Sarutobi Hiruzen heard this, a figure suddenly flashed in his mind, showing a look of nostalgia. Danzo pretended to be calm and snorted, "I don't have time to listen to your nonsense." As soon as he finished speaking, he walked towards the door and wanted to leave. But how could Uchiha Hikyu let him succeed? He blocked the door first and said with a smile, "Are you leaving in such a hurry? Is there something wrong in your heart? Say, what are you talking about?" Danzo had a sullen face, with a faint tendency to take action. Uchiha Hikyu smiled at this, and then said to Sarutobi Hiruzen, "Sandame, I suspect that Shimura Danzo was in the battle where the second generation died. Sneak attack on Uchiha Mirror. Take the opportunity to kill him and take away his Sharingan." "You fart. Kagami Uchiha is my good friend, how could I do such a thing?" Danzo retorted without hesitation. "Then you should take off the bandage and let everyone take a look at your right eye." Uchiha Haicho said step by step. "I'm disfigured and I don't want everyone to see it." "I'm afraid you don't want everyone to see your Sharingan." Seeing the two people arguing and the situation becoming increasingly difficult to control, Hiruzen Sarutobi took a deep breath of cigarette and said in a deep voice, "Everyone be quiet." For a moment, everyone turned their attention and looked at the Sandame. Sarutobi Hiruzen's face was a little blurry behind the smoke, and his eyes were slightly narrowed, as if he was thinking about something. He has never doubted Uchiha Mirror's death all this time, but now that he thinks about it carefully, it is indeed somewhat doubtful. Danzo has covered his right eye since then and is not exposed at all. I'm afraid there are really some problems here. Although personally, he would be more inclined to Danzo's side, but as the head of a village, he must stand on the side of justice. "Danzo, since Uchiha has doubts, please prove it." Hearing this, Danzo looked at him in disbelief. "Hiruzen, you don't believe me either." "Of course, take off your bandage," Sarutobi Hiruzen said in a deep voice. "Impossible, you asked me to take off the bandage just because of their suspicion. Then tomorrow they will doubt others, and you will let others prove themselves. It's simply unreasonable." Danzo had a sullen face, still not intending to compromise. He knew very well that if the Sharingan was really exposed, his status in Konoha would suffer a huge blow. Even lives will be lost. After all, Uchiha is a wealthy family in Konoha, and things like hiding bloodstains will definitely be investigated to the end. But seeing Danzo's performance, Sarutobi Hiruzen was even more sure that he was hiding something, and said in a deep voice, "Danzo, take off your bandage." "Hiruzen, do you really want to believe them and force me to this point?" Danzo's face was so gloomy that it almost turned black. "Danzo, for the benefit of the village, prove your innocence," Hiruzen Sarutobi said with a righteous expression. Seeing this scene, Danzo knew that he would not be able to escape today. If he doesn't take off the bandage, he won't be able to leave here. Okay, I understand." Danzo laughed angrily, stretched out his palm neatly, and untied the bandage wrapped around his head. Uchiha Haicho watched this scene intently, his heart gradually becoming nervous. The time to reveal the mystery is coming. Wow. The untied bandages slowly scattered on the ground, and Danzo also exposed the skin of the right side of his face. If you look carefully, you can clearly see that there is no trace of injury on the right side of his face. At this moment, Uchiha Haicho suddenly became excited and was vaguely ready to attack. And Sarutobi Hiruzen's heart sank. Danzo's intact cheek had already shown that he had deceived everyone all these years. Tch. Danzo threw the bandage at his feet with an indifferent expression, completely exposing the right side of his face. The next moment, he opened his right eye directly, revealing a pair of bloody eyes. Is that really the case? Sarutobi Hiruzen was startled. Looking at the three Magatama's Sharingan, his mind instantly went blank. When Uchiha Hikyu saw the Sharingan, he immediately stepped out and attacked Danzo. Faced with this offensive, Danzo had already expected it. After all, the Uchiha clan dared to show off in person, so they must have other plans. In a flash, Danzo left the Hokage's office and came to the rooftop. Uchiha Hikyu followed closely behind, and released his ninjutsu as soon as he came to the rooftop. Art Fire Escape Ho Fireball. A huge fireball suddenly shot out, like the sun, and rushed towards Danzo. Wind Escape Big Breakthrough. Fierce winds rolled out in all directions, like rising waves, facing the fireball without flinching. In an instant, the two collided violently, erupting with huge momentum. The crazy wind couldn't blow away the flames, but the flames couldn't burn out the wind, and the two fell into a state of anxiety. This momentum quickly attracted everyone's attention, and they all looked up at the Hokage building. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was sitting in the office, also woke up and rushed to the rooftop immediately. But after hesitating for a moment, he chose to watch quietly without disturbing him. When the Anbu lurking around saw this scene, they continued to hide themselves and did not appear. The wind and fire are still fierce. But several ninjas suddenly appeared and attacked Danzo together. After seeing the blood-red eyes of the other party, Danzo immediately understood the other party's identity. Fichiu, old dog, it seems you have made a lot of preparations. Danzo quickly gave up his ninjutsu and avoided the attacks of the Uchiha elites. Old thief Danzo, you were the one who killed the Uchiha mirror. Hikyu Uchiha sneered and rushed towards Danzo with great momentum. Wind escape vacuum continuous waves. Danzo activated his ninjutsu, forcing all the Uchiha spirits back, and then said, "Don't slander anyone, I will never do such a thing." Really? Then you can tell me where your secret Sharingan came from. Uchiha Hikyu rushed towards the opponent quickly, with extreme hatred rising in his eyes. Uchiha Mirror was the clan member he was most optimistic about at the beginning. If he hadn't died, Uchiha would probably be in a different situation now. Danzo dodged his attack and said with a gloomy face, "This is a gift from my good friend. Duanzo, you have to save some face." Uchiha Haicho yelled and waved his fist angrily, "A despicable villain like you will never be my Uchiha friend. HMPH, maybe there are some aliens in your clan." Danzo said casually. Danzo, die. Uchiha Hikyu was extremely angry and led all the elites to kill the opponent. The battle situation became more and more intense, and the ninjas from Konoha village also gathered over. The most eye-catching one is a white-haired figure with a flaming cloud design on his sleeve. Seeing this, there is no need to say more about this person's identity. Hatake Tsukumo, Kakashi's father, an elite Junin of Konoha village, possesses shadow-level strength, and his Hatake sword skills are extremely ruthless, making him a nightmare for countless enemy ninjas. And then, a big shot with the same reputation appeared. Hyuga Ryosuke, the current clan leader of the Hyuga clan, is about the same age as Uchiha Hikyu and is already old. Kurenai Yuhi, one of the 8 colors of Konoha, Kurenai Yuhi's father, a powerful genjutsu ninja. There are also the 3 members of the first generation Ino Shika Butterfly, Namikaze Minato, Uzumaki Kushina and others who have not yet made their mark. Almost all of them appear here. Seeing Uchiha Hikyu leading all the elites to surround and kill Danzo, everyone's faces were filled with emotion. What are these Uchiha guys doing? Do they want to rebel? Should we take action? Lord Hokage seems to be watching from the side. Hey, it's Danzo who's being attacked. Then it's okay. For a while, everyone had their own thoughts, and Danzo, who was being surrounded and killed, was slowly at a disadvantage even though he had a shadow-level strength. After all, those who surrounded him were more than a dozen Junin-level Uchiha ninjas, as well as Uchiha Hikyu, who was also a Kage level. Even though his old body has reduced his strength, the short battle is still full of fierce fighting power. After realizing that Danzo was at a disadvantage, Uchiha Hyoka was overjoyed and hurriedly shouted to the surroundings, "Shimura, Danzo secretly hides the blood-stained Sharingan of our clan. This is a personal grudge, please don't get involved." As soon as these words came out, everyone onlookers were immediately shocked. Secretly hidden Sharingan. This is the most precious thing for every blood family, and even the ninjas from the same village must not covet it. No wonder these Uchiha lunatics dare to start a war directly in the Hokage building. And Hokage-sama is watching the battle from the sidelines, probably because of this. Everyone thought carefully and vaguely discovered that there was indeed a Sharingan in Danzo's right eye socket. Those bloody eyes are really eye-catching. After understanding everything, everyone watched with confidence, ready to see how this farce would end. Danzo will die. However, one of them was not in that mood. Hinata Ryosuke looked gloomy and stared at Danzo's figure closely. When it comes to the blood-stained ability that is most easily robbed, eyes are definitely the first. Even if he dies, his own abilities will remain in his eyes and become an object for others to control. In the Konoha village, apart from the Sharingan, the most famous one is the Byakugan of the Hikaru family. In order to prevent blood stains from leaking out, the Hyuga clan even developed the caged bird technique to ensure absolute control over blood stains. And Uchiha's Sharingan was secretly kept by Danzo, which made Hyuga Ryosuke couldn't help but guess, had their clan's Byakugan been stolen by Danzo. During the Second Ninja War, the Hyuga clan contributed a lot. Not to mention the casualties of the branch families, the clan also suffered certain casualties. However, after careful consideration, he put away this idea. After all, the bodies of the deceased members of the Zong family were successfully recovered, and the white eyes never leaked. But after this time, if Danzo survives, the entire Hyuga family must be on guard against this person. Bayan must not fall into the hands of outsiders. On a roof not far from the Hokage building, Yifeng and Nunoyu stood here silently. As for Uchiha Fugaku, he has already joined the battle to deal with Danzo together. Yifeng looked at Nonayu's uneasy look and said, "Why are you so worried? Didn't you say it yesterday, we will win? Can really win?" Nanoyu looked at him anxiously. Yifeng was in a daze. He did not expect that Nanoyu was so afraid of Danzo. However, after recalling the methods of cultivating the roots, Yifeng felt relieved. He held Nonayu's delicate palm and said very calmly, "Don't worry, you will definitely win. If we can't help you get rid of your roots, we'll just become traitors." Yifeng laughed heartlessly, but this was more of a joke. They will never lose. Unless Sarutobi Hiruzen is mentally ill, he must risk his life to save Danzo. But in that case, Sarutobi Hiruzen will lose a lot of people's support. Is he really willing to do it? From Yifeng's point of view, of course he couldn't bear it, so Danzo would definitely lose. But Nanoyu was deeply moved and did not realize that Yifeng was just a joke. After all, the concept of a ninja village is established by every child from an early age, and few people would be willing to become rebellious ninjas. That kind of choice means leaving everything behind and cutting off everything in the past. After looking at Yifeng carefully, Nonaiyu calmed down and smiled softly. "We won't lose." "Of course," Yifeng responded with a smile. Boom. The power of the battle spread out, and the Hokage building was shattered to a certain extent. Wind and fire intertwined again, erupting into a wave of air that destroyed the heaven and earth. In an instant, Danzo's figure fell from the thick smoke and half knelt on the rooftop in embarrassment. Now he can hardly hold on any longer. After repeated hard battles, injuries appeared on his body, which affected his ability to fight. If he continues, I'm afraid, he will die here. Call out. Danzo looked up at Uchiha Hikyu, who was attacking again, determination rising in his heart. Do you really need to use that trick to save your life? While hesitating, the Uchiha people were already coming to kill him again, displaying their sharp fangs. Danzo fought and retreated, with a vague decision in his heart. Just use that trick. As long as he successfully escapes back to his roots, unless the Uchiha family goes to full-scale war with his roots, there will be no way they can do anything to him. After making the decision, Danzo's eyes flashed with ferocity and he rushed towards Uchiha Hikyu. At the same moment, Uchiha Haicho also rushed towards him. But just when the two were about to fight together, a figure suddenly appeared in the center. Danzo suddenly stopped what he was doing and breathed a sigh of relief. Hiruzen, you finally came forward. After seeing Hiruzen Sarutobi, Uchiha Hikyu's face immediately darkened. Sandame, what do you mean? Stop it now, Sarutobi Hiruzen said without any doubt. Why, could it be that, Sandame, you want to protect Danzo? Uchiha Haicho said without any scruples, and immediately put a big hat on him. There was a moment of confusion in Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes, but he quickly said calmly, I will never protect Danzo. Danzo, return the Sharingan to the Uchiha clan. What, Hiruzen, are you crazy? Danzo shouted reluctantly. But Sarutobi Hiruzen gave him a cold look in return. If you hadn't contributed so much to the village, I would have ordered your execution long ago. Danzo felt a chill in his heart, feeling the cruelty of Sarutobi Hiruzen. If he hadn't thought about the friendship and his contributions in the past, Hiruzen Sarutobi would have ordered his execution. Now in his prime, Sarutobi Hiruzen is by no means as indecisive as he was when he was old. It seems that this eye cannot be saved. Danzo gritted his teeth angrily. Over the years, he has often used the Sharingan to control his subordinates, and has long been accustomed to its existence. To suddenly have to hand it over is like cutting off a piece of flesh from your body, which is really heartbreaking. However, he had no other choice. Thinking of this, Danzo showed his heroic side. I saw him decisively reaching out his palm, inserting, buckling, and taking the Sharingan out of his eye socket in 3 quick steps. Blood continued to gush out, but Danzo remained unmoved and threw the Sharingan at Uchiha Hikyu without hesitation. Then, Danzo took steps to leave. However, the elite Uchiha did not back down and quickly surrounded him. Uchiha clan leader, are you still not satisfied? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked with a frown. Uchiha Hikyu looked at the Sharingan in the palm of his hand and felt a faint sense of familiarity. He looked at Danzo with resentment, gritted his teeth and said, the Sharingan is over, but what about the Uchiha mirror's death? Just returning the Sharingan is not enough. Sarutobi Hiruzen frowned tightly. He was not a fool. He could naturally guess that Danzo was probably closely related to Uchiha Kagami's death. He asked in a deep voice, then what else do you want? Of course, blood debt must be paid with blood. This is impossible. Sarutobi Hiruzen said angrily, although he knew that Uchiha Mirror's death was closely related to Danzo. But Uchiha Mirror is dead after all, and Danzo alive can still create greater value. You Uchiha can't produce any evidence to prove that Danzo killed Uchiha Mirror. If you can take it out, I will kill Danzo myself. Sarutobi Hiruzen spoke sonorously and forcefully, the majesty of the 3rd generation I clearly revealed. Uchiha Haicho's expression suddenly became cloudy and uncertain. If he wanted to provide evidence, he would never be able to produce it. After all, the Sharingan on the hand alone cannot prove that it belongs to the Uchiha Mirror. Gritting his teeth helplessly, Uchiha Haicho looked at Danzo's back, wishing he could kill him with one palm. But after weighing it up, he had nothing to do. In Konoha, the Hokage has the greatest power after all, and others can hardly object to the things he decides on. What's more, in this matter, they couldn't provide enough evidence. As a clan leader, he also had to consider the continuation and prosperity of the clan, so he could only choose to bow his head. This matter can be left alone, but I have a request. After thinking about it, Uchiha Haicho said. What request? Sarutobi Hiruzen frowned slightly, but this matter was ultimately their fault, and they could consider agreeing to it as long as it was not excessive. Yakushi no must break away from his roots and have nothing to do with Danzo from now on. Upon hearing this, Danzo slowly turned around, but did not speak. He knows very well that now he has no right to speak. Sarutobi Hiruzen cast his gaze at Yifengye and Nayu who were standing in the distance. After thinking for a moment, he said, okay, I agree on Danzo's behalf. After obtaining this result, Uchiha Haicho's expression softened significantly. Thank you, Sandame, then. After that, he led a group of Uchiha elites and flew to the roof where Yifengye Nuyu was standing. He looked at Yifeng and the two of them and said with some dejection, let's go. Yifeng looked at the old man with mixed black and white hair in front of him, and clearly felt the other man's loss. As the leader of a clan, he knew that his most promising descendant had died in Danzo's hands, but he could do nothing except take back a Sharingan that was of little use. What's more, Yifeng hadn't even bought them a day of preparation time, so they couldn't kill Danzo quickly. It's really incompetent. But Yifeng couldn't say anything at this moment, so he had to follow silently and return to the clan together. Seeing that the situation calmed down and the Uchiha clan successfully regained the Sharingan, the crowd of spectators dispersed. Danzo staggered forward, preparing to return to his roots. Hiruzen Sarutobi stopped him with a hint of resentment and asked in a low voice, did you really kill Kagami? Danzo glanced at him sullenly, walked around him silently, and walked forward. Sarutobi Hiruzen clenched his fists tightly, confirming his suspicion. But just as he thought, Uchiha Mirror was dead after all, and the living Danzo could still play his role. After letting out a breath, Sarutobi Hiruzen continued, remember, that pharmacist no has nothing to do with you from now on. What a shame. Danzo's expression turned even uglier, and his blood-covered face looked extremely pitiful. However, he quickly used the teleportation technique and left the place. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at the place where he disappeared and shook his head silently, but when he was about to return to the Hokage's office. Suddenly I noticed that the Hokage building was in a mess, and the floor on the rooftop was even broken into pieces. At this moment, Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression also darkened, and he secretly became angry with Uchiha and Danzo. In the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Hikyu has dismissed everyone. Only Yifeng, Nanoyu, and Fugaku followed him back to the house. Uchiha Hyoka sat slumped in the living room, seeming to be blaming himself for his incompetence. Yi Feng thought for a moment and then comforted him. Master Patriarch, you don't have to blame yourself. The result is already very good. Okay, what's so good about this? I don't even have the ability to avenge my tribe. Uchiha Hikyu said weakly. Yi Feng shook his head. With the current situation in Konoha, clan chief, you are already very successful in achieving this. Hearing this, Uchiha Haicho raised his eyelids and seemed a little moved. Yi Feng continued. Sarutobi Hiruzen and Danzo are from the same team after all, and their friendship with each other is very deep. And Uchiha Kage has been dead for several years, and the relationship between them has slowly faded. Even if Sarutobi Hiruzen believes that Danzo killed Uchiha Mirror, as a vested interest, it is obviously more beneficial to save Danzo. Master Patriarch, you were able to get back the Sharingan despite the pressure from the Hokage, and at the same time, Nunoyu successfully escaped from the root. These results are already quite good. And don't underestimate Danzo. According to my guess, he will most likely use the forbidden art of the Uchiha clan, Izanagi. It's not easy to be able to successfully retrieve the Sharingan instead of a sealed useless eye. Hearing this, Uchiha Haicho's expression suddenly changed. What? He actually knows my clan's forbidden arts. Since it is a forbidden jutsu, naturally even most of the Uchiha clan members do not know this jutsu, and only a few elites know it. Yi Feng said. Duanzo's roots are like roots in the dark, lurking everywhere, and can obtain much more information than we imagined. In this case, it's not bad to be able to regain the intact Sharingan. Uchiha Haicho's mood was obviously better. But soon, he sighed sadly. Well, in the final analysis, it is still my fault that the Uchiha clan failed to become a high-level leader in the village. If I had power in my hands, I wouldn't be able to do whatever the Hokage says now. There is no chance that even Danzo's roots exist. Yi Feng chuckled. Don't worry, clan leader, this Konoha will eventually belong to my Uchiha. It's better to be young, so energetic. Uchiha Haicho laughed and slowly put aside his melancholy, but I'm afraid it will take some time. Yi Feng agreed. It does take some time, but we can slowly clear the obstacles on this road first. Oh, what do you want to do? Uchiha Haicho became interested. Yi Feng said softly, assassination. Konoha high-level officials. As soon as these words came out, the three people who heard them were not too shocked. They had been shocked enough times in the past few days, and they gradually became numb and used to it. Actually, I can produce evidence that Danzo killed Uchiha Mirror. All I need to do is use the Earth reincarnation and summon the dead Uchiha Mirror through the Sharingan. But considering the assassination plan, I still prefer to let Danzo die like this. There is also Mito Kudeni and Kaharu. If we, the Uchiha clan, want to take over the position of the fourth Hokage, they must be eliminated. After hearing this, several people present started to think. Even Nanoyu started thinking about the problem from the perspective of Uchiha. Now, whether she wants it or not, she has been labeled as an Uchiha, and I'm afraid she won't be able to get rid of it for the rest of her life. But Nanoyu was also so happy. She looked at the confident young man with a smile on her face. Uchiha Fugaku said, but if you want to assassinate them, you must have cage-level strength. Today's clan leader, I'm afraid only the clan leader is at the shadow level, but he. Uchiha Haicho understood what Fugaku meant, took over the words and said, I am getting old after all, and assassination must be successful. If it fails, the situation of the Uchiha clan will be in danger. Yi Feng knew this very well and set his sights on Fugaku. If you want to be at the film level, you have to look at you, brother Fugaku. Me. Fugaku stared in surprise. What, brother Fugaku, don't you have the confidence to become a shadow-level powerhouse? Fugaku was choked and immediately said in a deep voice, of course I have confidence. Yi Feng laughed playfully, patted Fugaku on the shoulder and said, don't worry, I will work hard, and maybe I will have shadow-level strength earlier than you, brother Fugaku. You're a kid, you're a fool. Fugue slapped Yi Feng's palm away and cursed lightly. However, he did not doubt the authenticity of Yi Feng's words. With his current talent, this was very possible. Yi Feng smiled and said to Uchiha Fichiu, this is a small goal, but it will take 1 or 2 years to achieve. Now, I think you should do something, Patriarch. Oh, what's the matter? Uchiha Fichiu looked at Yi Feng, not feeling any shame at being guided by a child. I suggest that you, the clan leader, spread the news about Danzo killing Uchiha Mirror and seizing the Sharingan, so as to damage Danzo's reputation in the hearts of the people. The best thing is to make your teeth itch with hatred whenever you mention him. Uchiha Haicho nodded. That's exactly what I meant. The price Danzo paid this time is extremely small. It's really hard to vent the hatred in my heart. In addition, I also plan to make up some things and spread them out together, such as Danzo studying the blood stain abilities of various families. At the same time, I'm also keeping an eye on Bai Yan, and I'm going to find an opportunity to steal a pair for experimentation. Yi Feng smiled at this. My patriarch, you are not making this up, what you said is completely true. But Uchiha Hikyu is not like him. He knows the plot of the original work, and it is already very good to have such imagination. As a result, several families in the village will definitely be very wary of Danzo, and they may not even accept the mission to leave the village. Sarutobi Hiruzen may have to put in a lot of effort if he wants to stabilize the situation. Yi Feng said this, and then changed the subject, but after all, this will not hurt the bones of Konoha's top brass. Everything depends on when Uchiha can give birth to a shadow-level strongman again. For a moment, Fugaku felt that the responsibilities on his shoulders were heavier, but he did not feel like shrinking, but was looking forward to it. Looking forward to the day when I become a shadow-level powerhouse. Fugaku never doubted his talent, even when he met the extremely evil Yi Feng. After some discussion, Fugaku left first and couldn't wait to go back to practice. Yi Feng and No Naiu said goodbye to the clan leader and walked around the clan. The cherry blossoms were falling, carrying the fragrant wind through the two people, one tall and one short. Yi Feng held the cherry blossom and said, "Congratulations, you successfully escaped from the root." "Thank you, this is all your credit." Nanoyu smiled charmingly, dancing in the cherry blossom fragrance wind. Yi Feng admired her beauty unabashedly and blew out the cherry blossoms in his hand. "I will discuss the establishment of an orphanage with the clan leader after a while. Don't worry about this, you have already helped me enough." Nanoyu's smile became brighter, feeling the feeling of freedom against the fragrant wind. Yi Feng looked at her cheerful look and laughed. "By the way, you have to live in my house for the next period of time, is that okay?" As if he didn't want Nanoyu to refuse, Yi Feng hurriedly said, "Although you are out of touch with your roots, I don't deny that Danzo was so angry that he lost his mind and took revenge on you. It's relatively safer if you live in the Uchiha area." Nanoyu put a cherry blossom in his hair, smiled and nodded, "No problem. Apart from her roots, she has no other place to live in the village. As early as when she came to the Uchiha clan, she expected to live here permanently. Otherwise, he wouldn't have occupied Yi Feng's room arrogantly in the morning." Then, she turned her eyes to Yi Feng and asked expectantly, "Am I good looking?" "Okay, it looks good." Yi Feng was suddenly startled, inexplicably feeling that something was wrong with Nanoyu who had gained freedom. Is this the legendary thing that always reverses itself? It has been without freedom for a long time and has been dominated as a tool. Suddenly gained freedom, can't accept it. After Nanoyu got the answer, the smile on his face suddenly became a little shy, and he ran forward quickly. "Really? Sick." Yi Feng chased after her helplessly, looking at the setting sun and urging, "You are beautiful, you are the most beautiful, let's go back quickly." After hearing this, Nanoyu did not stop, but even quickened his pace, but he ran in the right direction. Yi Feng didn't care about this anymore and silently followed behind, returning home together. After a while of busy work, it was already dark. Nanoyu sat at the dining table and started eating. Just when Yi Feng was about to complain about her, he suddenly heard a knock on the door. Dong dong dong. Yi Feng put down his rice bowl and went to open the door. Standing outside was Yuri Hong with a concerned look on his face. As soon as she saw Yi Feng, she rushed into Yi Feng's arms and said with a hint of complaint, "So you came back yesterday. If it hadn't been for something happening today, I wouldn't have known you were back." Yi Feng subconsciously wanted to push Yuri Hong away, but after hearing the words, he felt a little embarrassed and was too embarrassed to do anything. "No, I'm sorry, I've been busy these past few days." Yuri Hong separated from them, but suddenly laughed. "I know, it's a big thing in your clan. There is such a big commotion today, it's hard not to know. I only found out after asking my father that you had returned to the village and showed up at the Hokage building today. How's it going? You're not hurt?" Seeing the caring look on Shihihong's face, Yi Feng scratched his head and said with a smile, of course it's okay, I don't have to fight. That's good. Yuhi Hong smiled happily, but when she turned her gaze to the room, she instantly put away her smile. Who is she? Yuhi Hong asked, pointing to Nanoyu at the dinner table. Inexplicably, Yi Feng felt that the temperature in the room had dropped a bit, with a chill. Well, she is the pharmacist Nanoyu, my savior. Savior, what's going on? Shiri Hong looked at Yi Feng with a pair of beautiful eyes, questioning. Yi Feng scratched his head helplessly and told the content he had fabricated before, but it was limited to the part where Nanoyu saved himself. Unknowingly, Yi Feng and Yuhi Hong were both sitting at the dinner table, and Nanoyu's frequency of picking up food had decreased a lot since seeing Yuhi Hong. She was not a simple and ignorant little girl, so she naturally saw the unusual relationship between Yuhi Hong and Yi Feng. As for Yuhi Kurenai's behavior, it was obvious that she was jealous. Although this had nothing to do with her, seeing the two of them being so intimate made her feel uncomfortable, and even the delicious food was like chewing wax. So, part of the reason why you are making such a big fuss is because of her. Yuhi Hong looked at Nono with inexplicable hostility. Yi Feng noticed this, took Yuri Hong's little hand and said, by the way. It's just by the way. If you come here at this time, you must not have eaten yet. Come and have a try, these are all made by me. Yuhi Hong's attention was immediately attracted, and she asked in surprise, can you cook? Of course. Yi Feng smiled softly, picked up the dish with chopsticks and stretched it towards Yuri Hong. A blush suddenly appeared on Yuhi's cheeks, she opened her mouth shyly and took the dish into her mouth. It's so delicious, thank you brother Yi Feng. Looking at the porcelain doll like sunset, Yi Feng's heart couldn't help but tremble slightly, almost melting. But suddenly, he felt a cold gaze staring at him. Turning his head to look, he saw Nanoyu holding the chopsticks tightly, his eyes seemed to be spitting fire. How does this smell like a Shira field? Yi Feng responded with a confused look, but when Nanoyu saw this, he simply put down his chopsticks and walked to the bedroom. After seeing her leave, Shihi Hong became even happier and said softly, Brother Yi Feng, your cooking is so delicious, I want more. Yi Feng naturally would not refuse, but he was not in the habit of feeding her, so he gave her a new set of bowls and chopsticks. And Kurenai Yuhi is also sensible. Anyway, Nanoyu has left, and they can enjoy their world as much as they want. After a while, Yuhi Hong put down her chopsticks with satisfaction and rested her head on Yi Feng's shoulder. Brother Yi Feng, you are such a good cook. If I marry you, won't I not have to cook anymore? Listening to the subtle voice coming from beside him, Yi Feng smiled evilly and teased, what did you say? I didn't hear clearly. Yuhi's face flushed, as beautiful as the sunset, and she repeated it again with a higher volume. But Yi Feng still said, why not cook? Faced with this ridicule, Shihi Hong stretched out her hand and pinched Yi Feng's waist, causing his expression to change instantly. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. Seeing Yi Feng surrendering immediately, Yuri Hong happily retracted her palm and lay in his arms. For a moment, the two looked at each other, and their eyes even reflected each other's looks. Yuhi Hong looked at him lovingly and slowly closed her eyes. Yi Feng has been a man for 2 generations, so he naturally understands what this means. He didn't have the hesitation he had in the past. With a kind of longing in his heart, his head slowly lowered. Yi Feng's breathing gradually became faster, although this was not the first time he had experienced this. But his immature heart could not help but beat violently. He has already developed feelings for Yuri Kurenai. Although it is not yet love, he at least has the hope of developing it. And this feeling reminded him of his once ignorant first love, which made people yearn for it. But just when he was about to kiss Yuhi Hong's delicate lips, a voice suddenly came from the bedroom. Ahem. Hearing this sound, Yi Feng's movements suddenly froze. There was no doubt that Nanoyu in the room had been paying attention to their actions. Making this sound as nothing more than telling them, I'm still here. Pay attention to me. Inexplicably, Yi Feng felt like he was being peeped on, and he slowly straightened his back. Yuhi Hong noticed his movements and immediately opened her resentful eyes. Yi Feng smiled apologetically at her and said, I'll take you home. Yuhi Kurenai had been looking forward to her first kiss for a long time, but now the atmosphere had dissipated and there was no point in continuing. She stood up and snorted heavily in the direction of the bedroom. Humph. Then, she pouted her cute face and walked slowly outside the house. Yi Feng smiled softly, not feeling annoyed at all by being interrupted. After all, he had already experienced a lot. It was Yuhi Hong's angry look that made him laugh a little, and he immediately chased after her. On the streets of the Uchiha tribe, Yuhi Kurenai pouted and complained, that person must have done it on purpose. He did it on purpose. Okay, don't be angry, there will be more in the future. Yi Feng took her little hand and comforted her with a smile. But Yuri Hong was just a little girl. She quickly put aside the worries in her heart and walked with Yi Feng with a look of joy on her face. As soon as the two of them walked out of the Uchiha clan, Kurenai Yuhi suddenly thought of a question and asked in a deep voice, "By the way, does that woman want to live in your house?" "Yes, she has just left her roots. In order to guard against Danzo, living in the Uchiha clan is obviously the best choice," Yi Feng explained. "But we can't let her live with you." Yuri Hong looked at Yi Feng with a hint of jealousy. Yi Feng smiled and ruffled her hair. "Fool, she is my savior, and she is not familiar with other tribesmen, so of course she can only live with me." "Okay, I've been jealous all night. Be careful and make yourself sore. She and I will be fine." After receiving Yi Feng's assurance, Yuhi Hong was still a little worried. She looked at her figure and said, "But don't all men like that kind of thing? You live with her, what if you can't resist temptation?" Thinking of Nono's attractive figure, Yuhi Hong fell into a deep inferiority complex and wished she could grow up quickly. "What a fool, you are not allowed to think like this anymore." Yi Feng stretched out his hand to pinch Shirahong's face and said, pretending to be angry. "Okay, I don't want to think about it anymore." Shirahong resentfully opened Yi Feng's palm and supported him. But after taking a few steps, she asked with some suspicion, "Are you really not going to be tempted? What do you think about every day, little girl?" Yi Feng showed a wicked smile and stretched out his hands to Shiri Hong. "I want to punish you." In an instant, Yi Feng tickled Yuri Hong, causing her to smile and run forward quickly. Yi Feng chased after him without any psychological burden. For a moment, he even forgot his reborn identity and became an immature and ignorant boy. The two of them played around and gradually approached the Yuhi family's mansion. When we came to the door, it was very quiet away from the street, and there was no sound everywhere. Yi Feng let go of Yuri Hong's palm and said with a smile, "Go back quickly and see you next time." Yuhi Hong nodded and walked towards the door. But Yi Feng had no intention of stopping, and immediately turned around and walked towards the street. Etc. Yuhi Hong suddenly shouted, causing Yi Feng to stop and turn around. A gust of fragrant wind suddenly hit, and Shirahong trotted into Yi Feng's arms. Even in the dark night, the blush on her face could be clearly seen. The next moment, as soon as Yi Feng hugged her tightly, Yuri Hong raised her head and kissed him without hesitation. Yi Feng looked at her in astonishment and felt a pair of warm lips touching his mouth, soft and wonderful. However, Kurenai Yuhi broke away at the first touch, then quickly ran to the door and slammed the door shut. Yi Feng looked at this scene with a gentle smile and touched his lips with nostalgia. Then, he embarked on his way home with great aftertaste. In an extremely dark room, Danzo stood on the chair with a resentful look on his face, and an ordinary eye had been transplanted into his right eye. Standing opposite him was a strangely handsome man, Orochimaru. "Gia, it's really embarrassing, Danzo." Orochimaru's unique husky tone echoed in the room, making people unable to help but raise goosebumps. The resentment on Danzo's face became even stronger, and he clenched his fists tightly. "I will definitely make Uchiha pay a heavy price. I'm looking forward to this very much," Orochimaru said nonchalantly, then asked, "But how was the last experiment? Was it successful?" Danzo's eyes flashed, and he shook his head silently. "The first-generation cells are too powerful, and those children simply can't bear it. It seems that we have to think of other ways." Orochimaru's eyes were a little gloomy, but he had obviously expected such a result. The next moment, he walked to the laboratory in silence, leaving Danzo alone and resentful. At the same time, in a brightly lit house, Hyuga Ryusuke looked at the elders of the family and asked in a deep voice, "Are you sure? None of the dead members of the clan have lost their Byakugan?" "Sure," all the elders replied in unison. After getting this answer, Hyuga Ryosuke was obviously relieved, but he quickly ordered, "From now on, the protection of clan members must be strengthened, and the corpses must also be strictly supervised. Since Danzo covets the Sharingan, he must also be secretly thinking about the Byakugan. You must be more careful." Clear. After this day, Hyuga Ryosuke suddenly discovered that in the village where he lived, there was a hungry wolf hiding in the dark, silently staring at his family. This feeling really made him unhappy. If possible, he even wanted to suggest to the third generation to completely abolish the roots. In this case, he wouldn't need to guard against Danzo. However, he knew very well that with the support Sarutobi Hiruzen showed towards Danzo today, this was simply impossible. All the Hyuga clan can do is to strengthen their precautions. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe for more videos.